Chapter 508. Qin Sheng didn't know the history of the Qin family, but Qin Ran knew it better than anyone else. She found out about it on her own, not by anyone. The elders of the Qin family and the Zhu family didn't want Qin Ran to be involved in those grudges. They just wanted her to live a carefree life. However, Qin Ran didn't think so. For example, there were some things that she had to figure out. For example, her mother's accidental death was the most painful scar in Qin Ran's heart. It was a pain hidden in the bottom of her heart. It was a pain that she would never be able to forget. At that time, Qin Ran was too young to know what it meant to lose a loved one, let alone their mother. However, Qin Ran was not a child anymore. Her mother's death was a huge blow to her. She cried her heart out and woke up in the middle of the night, crying so many times that both the Zhu and Qin families were extremely worried about her. It took her several years to forget about it. Qin Ran was not a child anymore. Therefore, Qin Ran had to figure out how her mother died. Was it really an accident? Later, Qin Ran finally knew some inside stories. Her mother's death was obviously not an accident, but a deeper conspiracy which involved the Shui family and the Gu family. The Shui family used to be very influential, but it had declined in recent years. The Gu family was not as powerful as before, but a starving camel was still bigger than a horse. They were the sworn enemies of the Qin family. Qin Ran knew their names long ago and had seen them many times, but she never had any contact with them. She didn't expect that she would hear their names from Qin Sheng today. How could she not be nervous? Qin Ran's loss of composure made Qin Sheng even more curious. What was the background of these two men? Could it be that they were really enemies of the Qin family, and that was why they were targeting him? Sister, what's wrong? Qin Sheng shook his sister's arm and asked. Qin Ran came to herself and asked immediately, Qin Sheng, how do you know them? Or do you have any contact with them? Qin Sheng didn't tell his sister what was going on. Instead, he asked, Sister, it seems that you know them. Tell me, what's their relationship with you or the Qin family? Qin Ran's face darkened. Of course I know them. They're the sworn enemies of the Qin family, but I don't have any contact with them. Hearing his sister's words, Qin Sheng was a bit gloomy. As expected, he guessed right again. They were really enemies of the Qin family. No wonder they were against him. But Qin Sheng was very unhappy, just like Han Su, who would like to be played like a monkey. Besides, they had no contact with him before. I haven't made trouble for you yet, but you're making trouble for me first. Qin Ran did not intend to tell Qin Sheng too much so that he would not overthink. After all, Qin Sheng was under a lot of pressure now. It was not good to know too much. Oh, I see. Qin Sheng muttered in a low voice. Qin Ran asked, Can you tell me now? Why do you ask them? It's nothing. It's just a small matter. Qin Ran did not want Qin Sheng to think too much, and Qin Sheng also did not want Qin Ran to worry about him. Qin Sheng didn't seem to be a joke. Qin Sheng didn't seem to be. He family Sheng knew. Sheng knew that. Seeing that his sister didn't seem to be joking, Qin Sheng had to tell her the truth. After Qin Sheng finished, Qin Ran stood up angrily. What did you say? Qin Sheng had just returned to the Qin family, but they dared to attack him. Did they look down on the Qin family? Or did they want to hit them when they were down? Qin Ran was so angry that Qin Sheng was shocked. He didn't expect his sister to be so angry. Qin Jing was also shocked. Sister, what's wrong? Let alone Han Su. They didn't know what was going on. Only Han Su guessed that it might be because of Shui Ku and the others. Qin Sheng comforted her. Sister, don't be angry. It's just a small thing. For Qin Sheng, it was a small thing. But for Qin Ran, it was not a small thing. It was the Shui and Gu family's provocation to the Qin family. So she gnashed her teeth and said, How dare they? They're going too far. Qin Sheng did not expect that his sister's temper was getting bigger and bigger. He had never seen his sister so angry before. She was totally different from her usual self. If this went on, she might smash the cup and ruin the place. At that time, even he could not do anything about it. Qin Sheng couldn't help regretting telling his sister about it. At this time, he couldn't care less. He pulled his sister to sit down and begged for mercy. Sister, I was wrong. I won't make trouble anymore. Please calm down. If you get hurt, I'll be heartbroken. Qin Jing, who didn't know what was going on, also comforted her. Sister, what's wrong with you? Who bullied you? Tell Yaya. Yaya will help you. Don't be angry. Qin Ran found that everyone was looking at her. She knew that she had lost her composure. Those onlookers might think that she was quarreling with her boyfriend. Qin Ran sat down and said, I'm fine. I was a little impulsive just now. Qin Sheng and Qin Jing comforted her for a long time. Then Qin Ran calmed down, but she didn't want to say anything. She drank alone and sent messages on WeChat. Qin Sheng didn't dare to disturb her. Han Su didn't expect that Qin Sheng's sister, who looked gentle and elegant, would be like this when she was angry. So he whispered in Qin Sheng's ear, Your sister is so scary when she is angry. Then do you still want to pursue my sister and be my brother-in-law? Qin Sheng said, half-jokingly. Han Su shook his head subconsciously and said, No, I won't dare to do that. If I dare to nod, I'm afraid I won't be able to walk out of this door tonight. I still want to live for a few more years. Han Su was telling the truth. Although he was indeed stunned by Qin Ran's sister, this beauty was Qin Sheng's sister. Not to mention whether he could pursue her or not, Qin Sheng would not give him a chance. Qin Sheng laughed and then clinked 2 glasses with Han Su. He suddenly said playfully, Han Su, we suffered a loss last time. Do you want to get back at them? Han Su frowned and said, How? I dare not offend such a person. Qin Sheng said disapprovingly, This is not your style. Besides, even if you don't dare to offend them, it doesn't mean that I don't dare to offend them. Are you going to suffer a loss like this? Isn't it too easy for them? Han Su was confused and said, How to get back at them? After Qin Sheng whispered in Han Su's ear for a few minutes, Han Su said dubiously, It's a bit too difficult. He definitely won't give us such a chance. Qin Sheng sneered and said, That's not necessarily true. As long as the clouds disperse, the moon will shine. I don't believe that there won't be a chance in 1 or 2 days. I don't believe that there won't be a chance in 1 or 2 months. I don't believe that there won't be a chance for him to be alone. Then I'll wait for your good news, Han Su said happily. Although their real target was Qin Sheng, they had played him like a monkey. How could Han Su not be angry? When it was just past 10 o'clock, everyone left. Han Su and his 2 friends continued the second half of the show, while Qin Sheng and his 2 little fairies went back to the Sihiyuan. After all, he was the escort of these 2 fairies. The next day, Qin Ran was going back to Shanghai. However, Qin Sheng suddenly decided to go with her. He did not tell anyone because he wanted to give Lin Su and his grandmother a surprise. Anyway, it would only take a few hours to go back and forth. However, for the old lady and Lin Su who had not seen him for a long time, it might make them happy for several days. Qin Jing heard that her brother was also going to Shanghai. She had heard from her sister about her brother's girlfriend, so she insisted on going with them. Now she had become Qin Sheng and Qin Ran's burden and was very dependent on them. Of course, Qin Sheng and Qin Ran took her with them. With such a beautiful and lovely sister, they could not wait to love her. How could they be annoyed? Qin Chang'an and Zhao Anji had no objection to this. They were not afraid that something would happen to them in Shanghai. After all, the son-in-law of the Zhu family was now a big shot in Shanghai. Their small aunt cared about them more than anyone else. Moreover, the old lady was there. If anyone dared to make trouble for them, it was undoubtedly seeking death. Therefore, Qin Ran took Qin Sheng and Qin Jing to Shanghai. The Sihiyuan became quiet in an instant. However, Zhao Anji and Qin Chang'an did not have time to be sad. They still had a lot of things to do. As for what happened last night, Qin Sheng had already arranged for Uncle Gong's son. He asked him to help find 2 bodyguards who were proficient in investigation. He wanted to follow a man. Gong's son did not ask much. He believed that Qin Sheng would do things appropriately. Since they took the earliest flight, it was only 10 o'clock when they arrived in Shanghai. Qin Ran took Qin Jing to the company first, while Qin Sheng took a taxi to Sinan Road alone. It had been raining in Shanghai these days. The old lady was in a bad mood. It was rare to see the sun today. The old lady had been relaxing in Fuxing Park. The medical staff pushed the wheelchair in the park aimlessly. The sun made the old lady sleepy. She occasionally met old acquaintances and greeted them. When Qin Sheng appeared in Fuxing Park, the old lady and the medical staff did not see him. It was not until Qin Sheng approached them quietly that the medical staff recognized him. They were so surprised that they almost cried out. Qin Sheng hurriedly shushed them. He took the old lady's wheelchair from the medical staff and continued to push the old lady. The medical staff and Chang Baji followed them from a distance. Qin Sheng kept pushing the old lady like this. After more than 10 minutes, the old lady, who had completely woken up, felt a little bored. She said in a soft voice, "Let's go back." Qin Sheng said softly, "Grandma, don't you want to walk a little longer?" "Grandma," the old lady murmured in confusion. The voice didn't sound like her medical staff. The old lady thought it was Jiao, the brat, and turned her head subconsciously. Then, she saw a very bright smiling face. This smiling face was not the naughty Zhu Jiao, but the grandson she had been thinking about these days. The old lady thought she missed her grandson too much. After confirming it again and again, she said with an incredible look, "Shang-er." "Grandma," Qin Sheng said affectionately again. Then he squatted beside his grandma's legs. The old lady was so excited that she could not speak coherently. She had to hug Qin Sheng and caress his hair. She was about to cry. It did not occur to her that Sheng would come back to see her without saying goodbye. Chapter 509. Such a heartwarming scene made Chang Baji and the medical staff envious. Chang Baji had never felt the warmth of family love in his life. He had always been alone. It could be said that he had been lonely for most of his life. Old Master Qin said that he had someone to rely on when he was old. Chang Baji used to believe it, but now he was somewhat doubtful because he had not found his final destination even though half of his body had been buried. Some people's lives seemed to be predestined and could not be changed no matter how hard they tried. After they got up and separated, Qin Sheng continued to push his grandmother back. Listening to her nagging about the trifles of his uncle, aunt, or brothers and sisters, he comforted her as he walked. Grandma told everyone she met that this was her grandson, who had come to see her from Beijing. She asked them if they had seen him before. Qin Sheng also greeted those grandparents politely, asking them if they were well and so on. Then he got a kind smile on his grandmother's face in return. Along the way, they talked and laughed, which was very lively. They were not as restrained as they had been when they just met last time. They were just like when Qin ran, Qin Sheng and the others got along with the old lady. After lunch, Qin Sheng accompanied his grandmother to chat and watch operas for the whole afternoon. He even played the eru and sang Beijing opera for her. Not to mention the old lady, even the medical staff opened their eyes wide. They did not expect Qin Sheng to be so talented. The old lady was immersed in laughter for the whole afternoon, as if she had become several years younger. However, everyone knew that his grandmother's health was getting worse and worse. No one knew how many days she could hold on. Maybe she would suddenly pass away one day, and the Zhu family would lose the most precious thing. Qin Sheng and Chang Baji stayed in the old foreign-style house on Sinan Road until 4 o'clock in the afternoon. They prepared to go to Lujiazui to pick up Lin Su, who was about to get off work. Qin Sheng prepared some small surprises for Lin Su. Of course, the task was given to Chang Baji to carry out, and they acted separately. Men were always rational, while women were always emotional. Therefore, most women liked romance. This was the spice of life. Without it, life would be dull. Qin Sheng thought about it carefully and realized that he had not given Lin Su any surprises. Today was his way of making it up to her. Otherwise, he would be too incompetent as a boyfriend. In a Lujiazui World Financial Center, Qin Ran held 2 meetings after she returned to the company. After that, she left in a hurry with Qin Jing. She had an appointment with her small aunt for dinner in the evening. She did not ask Qin Sheng and Lin Su to come along. Instead, she asked them to enjoy their time together. However, before she got off work, she specifically reminded Lin Su that she was not allowed to work overtime today. She also asked Wuhan to keep an eye on Lin Su. However, Qin Jing's appearance caused a lot of waves in the company. After all, there were a few beautiful women in the company recently. Those men all behaved as if they had been injected with chicken blood in order to get the favor of the beautiful women. Lin Su didn't know whether to laugh or cry. However, she didn't dare to disobey this sister's words. After all, she was not only her immediate superior, but also her future sister-in-law. During this period of time, apart from the occasional gatherings with her close friends, Qin Ran devoted most of her time to work. She also enjoyed it and did not feel very tired. After all, she had basically been resting for more than a year. It was rare that she could get off work so early. Lin Su planned to walk back and buy some things at the supermarket on the way. After that, she would go home and cook a few dishes to reward herself. After that, she would read for a while, take a bath, and sleep. When one was alone, one should take good care of himself and not let the other half worry about him. Being responsible for oneself was the same as being responsible for others. Lin Su, let's have dinner together tonight. I will take you to a very delicious Japanese restaurant. What do you think? After she finished packing, Wu Han walked over, held Lin Su's arm, and said with a smile, during this period, they've been taking care of each other like sisters. No matter in life or work, they had a lot of similarities. Of course, Wu Han had to go home every day. Anyway, Thompson Golf was not very far away. However, in order to take care of Lin Su, Wu Han often took the initiative to stay behind to accompany Lin Su to work overtime or take her to dinner. She had heard from Sister Qin Ran that Lin Su already had a boyfriend. However, she had never seen him before. She had thought that it was just an excuse to avoid those crazy suitors in the company. Wu Han had been quite tired recently and didn't seem to be feeling very well. Lin Su knew that Wu Han was doing this for the sake of taking care of her. She was very touched. However, she still said, "All right, Henin, you should go home early and rest. Take care of your body first. I'm going to go home and do some cleaning. Don't worry about me." Wu Han said doubtfully, "Really?" Lin Su hugged Wu Han intimately and said, "Why would I lie to you? Come to my house on the weekend. I will make delicious food for you." Wu Han could not help but laugh as she said, "Nice. That's a deal. I can eat and drink for free again." The executive vice president of the company had seen the intimate scene between the two of them. He was a famous eligible bachelor in the company. Not to mention that he had a good family background, a high social status, and a high degree of education. He was a typical tall, rich, and handsome man based on his height and appearance. It was just that he had not gotten married yet. Many female colleagues in the company had fantasized about him. However, he had not taken fancy to them at all. That was until Lin Su and Wu Han had arrived. Both Lin Su and Wu Han were ladies from respectable families. Naturally, their temperament could not be compared with that of most women. That was why this eligible bachelor was attracted to them. However, no matter how they took the initiative to approach him, the two beauties did not take him seriously at all, which made him feel quite upset. It was normal that Lin Su was not interested in him. That was because Lin Su's heart had belonged to someone else long ago. As for Wu Han, she was not interested in him because she had heard from the outside that although this man looked like a gentleman in the company and maintained a perfect image, his style was not so good when he was outside, and he had relationships with many women. As a result, Wu Han naturally kept a respectful distance from him. "Two beauties, do me a favor. My friend has opened a new hot pot restaurant. I heard that you like to eat hot pot. Why don't we go together tonight?" His name was Zhao Changel, who was from Suzhou. He was a top student who had returned from studying abroad. He had been rooted in the financial industry for 7 to 8 years. Here he comes again. Lin Su and Wu Han looked at each other helplessly. Wu Han turned around directly and said, "Oh, I almost forgot. My dad is picking me up downstairs to go home for dinner. You guys chat first. I will leave first." Wu Han was really annoyed by Zhao Changel to the point that he felt somewhat helpless. As a result, he had no choice but to abandon Lin Su and run away first. Otherwise, he would have a headache later. After all, Zhao Changel was the executive vice president of the company. He had no choice but to give him face. Since Wu Han had already left, Zhao Changel's only target was Lin Su. As he looked at Lin Su, who was dressed in a gray professional suit, up and down, he felt somewhat itchy in his heart. Her perky buttocks, which were tightly wrapped by the short skirt, were indeed the pet that all men dreamed of. When could he leave his mark on them? Zhao Changel pleaded bitterly. "Lin Su, Wu Han has something to deal with. In that case, Please accompany me. I have already promised him. Lin Su was too embarrassed to reject him. However, it was absolutely impossible for her to nod and agree. If Qin Shi knew about this, he would definitely think too much. Moreover, the boss of the company was Qin Ran's sister. It would be very easy for him to find out. As a result, Lin Su rejected him tactfully and said, "Mr. Zhao, I am sorry. My boyfriend came to Shanghai today." Being rejected again, Zhao Chang'e was somewhat disappointed. However, he still smiled politely and said, "Oh, I see. Next time then. My boyfriend is more important." After that, Zhao Chang'e left gracefully. Qin Ran let out a long sigh of relief. Finally, it was time to get off work. Lin Su carried her bag and left the World Financial Center. Along the way, she attracted a lot of white-collar workers who stopped to admire her. Most of the people who could work in this building were elites. The sun had not set yet. At this moment, the setting sun was just right. Lin Su was in a very good mood. She walked aimlessly toward Shurmao Riviera Garden. Anyway, it was not far away. It seemed that ever since she had met Qin Sheng, the pace of her life had slowed down. She was not as nervous as before. Lin Su did not know that since she walked out of the World Financial Center, a car had been following her at a moderate speed. In the car, there was a man holding a big bouquet of roses in his arms. He looked at her with a smile in his eyes. During this period, Lin Su would occasionally take out her phone. It seemed that she was hesitating about something. In the end, she put her phone back in her bag. In fact, Lin Su was hesitating whether she should call Qin Sheng. She knew that Qin Sheng was very busy recently. Thus, she was afraid to disturb him. Looking at the setting sun on the horizon, Lin Su began to miss her life in Xiamen in the past. At that time, she was so happy. After walking for 10 minutes, Lin Su had already walked from the bustling World Financial Center to the relatively quiet Puching Road. The man in the car felt that it was about time. He then asked the driver to stop the car. He carried the roses and prepared to get out of the car. However, at this time, a dazzling red Ferrari stopped beside Lin Su. The window of the Ferrari was rolled down. Zhao Chang'e, who had been rejected by the company just now, smiled and shouted, "Lin Su, where are you going? Let me give you a ride." Zhao Chang'e smiled and said, "Lin Su, where are you going?" Lin Su was reminiscing about the beauty of Xiamen when she suddenly woke up. She subconsciously turned her head to look at the roadside. She could not help but feel a headache. Why did she bump into Zhao Chang'e again? What should she do? Lin Su smiled awkwardly and said, "President Zhao, it's okay. I'll be home soon." "It's okay. You don't have to be so polite. Where do you live? I'll give you a ride." Zhao Chang'e insisted. If he knew where his goddess lived, there would be more opportunities in the future. He was very smart and did not mention the rejection in the company just now. This way, it would not make things awkward between them. Lin Su was a little unhappy and said, "President Zhao, I have a boyfriend, so I don't need you to give me a ride." After that, Lin Su continued to walk forward. She did not care about Zhao Chang'e, who was very embarrassed at all. She just felt that they were working in the same company, so she did not want to embarrass Zhao Chang'e. However, Zhao Chang'e's pestering again and again made Lin Su very unhappy. It seemed that she had to find a way to solve this problem. If there was no other way, she would tell Sister Qin Ran. She thought that Sister Qin Ran would probably give Zhao Chang'e a warning. Zhao Chang'e realized that Lin Su was angry, but he did not give up. He directly got out of the car and caught up with Lin Su. He pulled Lin Su's arm and said, "Lin Su, I didn't mean anything else. Don't be angry." At this moment, a man holding 99 roses shouted sternly, "Let go of me." This man was none other than Qin Sheng, who was preparing to surprise Lin Su. He did not expect to encounter such a scene. Someone actually dared to harass his wife. This was really a bit too much. Lin Su felt that the voice was a little familiar, but she did not dare to confirm it. After all, she knew that Qin Sheng had just returned to Beijing yesterday. It was impossible for him to come to Shanghai today. If he had come to Shanghai, her sister would definitely have told her during the day. However, Lin Su still turned her head subconsciously. After all, if someone appeared at this time, the situation would not be too awkward. She really did not want to pay attention to Zhao Chang'e. However, When she turned around, she saw the extremely familiar man standing in front of her at this moment. He was holding such a big bouquet of roses in his hand. Lin Su's face was full of disbelief. In an instant, she cried tears of joy. Chapter 510. Half believing, half doubting in fact. When Qin saw the Ferrari parked beside Lin Su, he did not think much of it. He thought that Lin Su had met some friends. After all, Lin Su had stayed in Shanghai for a long time. The Lin family was a rich and powerful family in Ningbo, so she should know many rich second-generation playboys. Besides, this was a famous luxury area in Shanghai. It was normal to meet friends. So he got out of the car and walked toward Lin Su with the roses in his arms. Lin Su was thinking about how to get rid of Zhao Changle, so she did not notice Lin Su behind her. When Qin got closer, he happened to hear the conversation between the two of them. It seemed that the man was not Lin Su's friend, but her pursuer. Qin was very unhappy about this. Fortunately, Lin Su rejected him directly without any hesitation. However, he did not expect that this man actually dared to get out of the car and pester her. Qin could not bear it anymore. Zhao Changle was a little surprised by Qin's sudden appearance. He looked at the roses in Qin's hand and thought that this should be the boyfriend Lin Su had mentioned. Zhao Changle was a smart man. He was very clear that he was in a weak position now. If he continued to insist, Lin Su would feel disgusted. So he let go of Lin Su's arm without hesitation and looked at the competitor in front of him. Sorry, I'm Lin Su's colleague. I saw her walking alone on the road, so I was a little worried, so I wanted to send her home. Zhao Changle quickly explained, giving himself a way out. Qin snorted and said, Are you sure? Why do you look like you were pestering her? Hee, it's not what you think, Zhao Changle said shamelessly. Anyway, he would not agree to it, even if he was beaten to death. He was still not clear about Qin's background, so naturally, he would not act recklessly. To be able to pursue such a great beauty like Lin Su, he must not be an ordinary person. Qin squinted and said, I don't care who you are. If I find out that you dare to pester Lin Su again, don't blame me for being rude. Qin was declaring his sovereignty. He did not care about Zhao Changle's identity. As long as it was a man who pestered Lin Su, he was Qin's enemy. Qin would not be merciful to his enemy. Zhao Changle was more or less angry. He really wanted to say, Who the F***ck do you think you are? But he did not lower himself to Qin. He did not lower himself to Qin. Instead, he said to Lin Su, Sorry, I'm leaving. See you later. Zhao Changle purposely said the last sentence to Qin. He did not care about Qin's reaction. He directly turned around, got in the car, and left. After Lin Su saw Qin, she did not look at Zhao Changle at all. All her attention was on Qin. She had not seen Qin for a long time. Lovesickness was the most torturous thing. After Zhao Changle left, Qin slowly walked up to Lin Su and gently wiped away her tears. He smiled faintly and said, What are you crying for? Your makeup is ruined. You don't look pretty anymore. Lin Su, who came back to her senses, was angry and amused at the same time. She gently hit his chest and complained, You bad guy, why didn't you tell me that you were coming back to Shanghai? I thought I got the wrong person. Although she was complaining, everyone could tell that she was acting coquettishly and happy. Lin Su rarely behaved like a little girl. Indeed, no matter how cold a goddess was, she would still be a little girl after falling in love. Qin handed the flowers in his hand to Lin Su and said, I just wanted to give you a surprise. This is for you. Do you like it? It was not that Lin Su had never seen such a big bouquet of flowers. In the past, many pursuers had sent her bigger ones, but Lin Su had never received them. So this was the first time she had received such a big bouquet of flowers. Most importantly, it was from the man she loved. This was more important than anything else. Lin Su hugged the flowers and pursed her lips. She smiled and said, I like it. It's just that it's a waste of money. You're not allowed to spend money like this in the future. We have to save money to live. Qin could not help but laugh and said, when did you become a little housewife? Lin Su could not help but stare at Qin. She was indeed very flirtatious, which made Qin Sheng's heart itch. After all, absence makes the heart grow fonder. Consequently, Qin Sheng could not help but hug Lin Su directly. Before Lin Su could react, he had already kissed her attractive red lips. Lin Su struggled a little and completely obeyed. Then, she cooperated with Qin Sheng's frivolous actions, which made many onlookers envious. After a long kiss of a century, Lin Su hid in Qin Sheng's arms with a red face. However, she felt very sweet in her heart. Qin Sheng hugged Lin Su proudly. He was just short of showing off that this beautiful and elegant beauty belonged to him and no one could snatch her from him. Then, he shamelessly put his hands on Lin Su's perky buttocks. Lin Su snorted pretentiously, and Qin Sheng laughed even more unscrupulously. When they got in the car and left, a car followed them and left. Of course, it was not Zhao Changle's Ferrari. When they returned to Shermao Riviera Garden District, Qin Sheng was sure that Chang Baji had prepared everything. He was afraid that Chang Baji did not know these tricks between men and women. So he asked Chang Baji to contact Xia Ding directly. That guy must have a way. On the way back, Chang Baji had already told him that he had successfully completed the task. As for what it was like, Qin Sheng did not know. At the door, Lin Su, who was holding a bouquet of roses in a bag, stared at Qin Sheng and said, "Why don't you open the door?" Qin Sheng smiled awkwardly and said, "I left in a hurry and forgot to bring the key." After that, he took the bouquet of roses from Lin Su's hand. Lin Su had no choice but to go forward to open the door. Qin Sheng quietly took out his phone and pressed the play button the moment Lin Su opened the door. At this time, he only heard a familiar and warm music. "I forgot how it started. Maybe I just have a feeling for you. I suddenly realized that I have fallen deeply in love with you. It's really very simple. It doesn't matter if we love each other till the end of the world. Right and wrong can't be chosen. I don't regret following you day and night for love. That crazy person is I cannot love you, baby. Saying that you love me too. I don't want baby to lose you." Although this song was very vulgar, although this song was also very old, this song seemed to be the experience of love between Qin Sheng and Lin Su. So Qin Sheng finally chose this song to express his feelings. After Lin Su pushed the door and entered, she was wondering where the sound came from. When she looked up, she was instantly stunned. She saw that the whole room had already been changed. There were flowers, balloons, and candles everywhere, arranged in different patterns. In particular, there was a big heart shape made of various petals on the floor in the middle of the living room. Coupled with this familiar song, Lin Su had completely fallen in love. Lin Su covered her mouth and could not believe the scene in front of her. She did not expect that today's surprises would come one after another. Of course, she had already understood that this was carefully designed by someone. Then she slowly turned around. At this moment, the initiator was really holding a big bouquet of roses and smiling foolishly. "Do you like it?" Qin Sheng said, lightly with a smile on his face. Lin Su did not say anything. She threw away the bag in her hand and directly jumped into Qin Sheng's arms. Qin Sheng slowly put down the roses in his hand and hugged Lin Su tightly. At this moment, thousands of words were not important. As long as they hugged each other, it was enough. This moment was eternal. While Qin Sheng and Lin Su were immersed in a romantic atmosphere, in the first-class Thompson mansion not far away, Yin Chaozong was enjoying the wind on the balcony, enjoying the beautiful scenery of the sunset. At this time, Feng He walked in front of Yin Chaozong and said lightly, "Young master, he is back." Yin Chaozong's expression changed slightly. Of course, he knew who the him that Feng He was talking about was. When he knew that the him was not dead and had returned to Shanghai, he had been waiting for the him to appear. However, there was no news until someone told him about the him as new identity. Yin Chaozong was extremely shocked. He did not expect that this would be the result. This made him feel as if he was facing a formidable enemy. The him now had already surpassed him in strength. He had to be on guard, because the him would take revenge on him at any time. Therefore, he sent people to keep a close eye on Lin Su, so that he could know the him's whereabouts. "Are you sure that he has arrived in Shanghai?" Yin Chaozong asked nervously. Feng He did not say much. Instead, he handed the phone to Yin Chaozong. On the phone was a photo taken by his subordinates secretly. In the photo, Qin Sheng was holding a rose in his hand and hugging Lin Su tightly. Yin Chaozong stared at the photo. He was more or less envious and jealous. This woman was the woman that he had pursued bitterly. He thought that she would accompany him for the rest of his life. In the end, she was intercepted by this man. How could he not hate this man? And this man was the existence that troubled him the most in the past 2 years. He was like a cockroach that could not be killed. He had tried his best to get rid of him, but he still could not get rid of him. This made him feel very helpless. "Young master, what are you going to do?" Feng He asked carefully. He was afraid that he would disappoint Yin Chaozong again. Yin Chaozong did not intend to act rashly. Instead, he said in a low voice, "Keep an eye on them first. Don't worry, young master. This time, you will not be out of our sight again," Feng He said with certainty. After Feng He left, Yin Chaozong fell into deep thought. He was still not sure about Qin Sheng's new identity. After all, this news was too unbelievable. He had been fighting with Qin Sheng for 2 years. If Qin Sheng was really the son of the big boss in the capital city, as they said, then why did he not fight back all this while? Instead, he had been running around in panic. This was obviously too funny. However, if he did not believe it, then why could Qin Sheng escape from death every time? If he was an ordinary person, he would have died 8 or 10 times. This was another paradox. Therefore, Yin Chaozong was dubious now. At present, the people that were sent to investigate had not gotten any accurate information. After all, this level was too high. Those people might not be able to get in touch with him. If it was really impossible, he would have to go to Beijing. He could not just sit and wait for death. If he waited for Qin Sheng to take the initiative to attack, it would be really too late. As for the cooperation that the other side mentioned, Yin Chaozong did not want to consider it for the time being. After all, the other side was not a kind person. Both sides were not in the same big circle. Some things still had to be taboo, lest others used a borrowed knife to kill him. In the Shermau Riviera garden, after a short period of tenderness, it was followed by another romantic French kiss. Just now on the road, Qin Sheng did not dare to act recklessly. Now, he could finally be unscrupulous. Chapter 511. These days, Lao Guan has been working hard to make up for what he owed this month. There are still a few chapters to be finished by the end of the month. At this time, Qin Sheng did not care about Zhao Chang'e or Yin Chaozong anymore. The most important thing now was to conquer Lin Su, which was the peak of life. After all, Qin Sheng was also a normal man. Moreover, true love was made by making love. The more they made love, the more they loved each other. After a hearty battle, it was completely dark outside, which showed how crazy Qin Sheng and Lin Su were. Of course, the main reason was that Qin Sheng, who had not seen each other for a long time, kept asking for more. Lin Su could only cooperate with him silently. In the end, she was completely exhausted, and Qin Sheng had to carry her to take a bath. After the bath, they hugged each other on the bed. Lin Su did not care about the spring scenery in the garden. After all, only Qin Sheng could see it. This man might know her body better than herself now. At the thought of the craziness just now, Lin Su could not help but blush. She was afraid that Qin Sheng would think that she was too open, but it was not because of Qin Sheng. "I haven't seen you for a few days. My wife, your skills have improved greatly. I almost can't take it anymore. No wonder there's a saying that there are only endless plowing fields and no cows that can't be tired to death." Qin Sheng caressed Lin Su's smooth skin and said very presumptuously. Lin Su said angrily, "You rascal." Qin Sheng laughed gloatingly. The ancient people said that eating and sex were part of human nature. It was easy to be rigid and easy to be broken. The combination of yin and yang was the way of heaven. He had been almost abstaining from sex for the past 2 years. He had to admire his strong will. "Did my sister deliberately not tell me that you were coming back and deliberately asked me to get off work early?" Lin Su finally asked. Qin Sheng did not deny it. Instead, he smiled and said, "She is my sister. Of course, she should cooperate with me. Otherwise, how could she give you a surprise?" Lin Su was completely speechless. The sister and brother lied to her together. But thinking about it, it made sense. Qin Ran must love Qin Sheng more, so she helped Qin Sheng. Poor Lin Su. She thought that Qin Ran asked her to get off work early because she felt sorry for her. But there is still a surprise. For the time being, you will know tomorrow. Qin Sheng thought that Qin Jing would probably like Lin Su very much. In the future, the Qin family would be more lively. Lin Su asked curiously, "What surprise?" "I won't tell you first. Otherwise, it won't be a surprise." Lin Su suddenly got up and rode on Qin Sheng's body skillfully. Then she bit her lip and seduced Qin Sheng with a charming look on her face. "Honey, tell me quickly, there will be a reward." Qin Sheng directly collapsed on the bed and said, "I won. I won a course. I won. I won. I won." Lin Su was so angry that she gnashed her teeth, but there was nothing she could do. She could only pinch Qin Sheng's waist fiercely and then quickly got out of bed and ran away. She did not care that she was still naked. Qin Sheng was in so much pain that he grimaced in pain and chased after her. Lin Su was no match for Qin Sheng. Qin Sheng caught up with her and held her in his arms within 2 steps. Qin Sheng teased Lin Su from head to toe. Lin Su begged for mercy. "Honey, I was wrong. Please forgive me. I won't do it again. I will never do it again." Qin Sheng still did not stop. Lin Su had to change her trick. "Honey, I am hungry. I have been working for a whole day. I haven't eaten." The moment Qin Sheng heard this, he let go of his hand at once. He almost forgot about this. Lao Chong had prepared a candlelit dinner, which he had specially asked a Western restaurant nearby to make. It was supposed to be cold now. Qin Sheng asked Lin Su to take a rest. He put on his clothes and went to the kitchen. Soon, the dinner was ready. Although the taste was not as good as freshly made food, the two of them were a little hungry, so they didn't feel anything. The decorations in the room had not been tidied up, so it looked very romantic under the dim light. As long as the two of them looked at each other, they couldn't help but smile. It was very warm. Qin Sheng drank half of the red wine. "Are you going to tell me who the man was? Are you jealous?" Lin Su smiled. Qin Sheng said angrily, "I am not jealous. I am jealous. If I had come to Shanghai later, you would have been taken away by him." Lin Su could not help but laugh. She comforted him. "Well, I am yours. How can I be taken away? Other men are nothing in my eyes. You are my hero. I like what you said. Well, I'll go shopping with you tomorrow." "My card is going to explode," Qin Sheng said with a laugh. Of course, he was joking. Lin Su was much richer than him, and she owned the Lin family's big business. She was a real rich woman. Lin Su stared at him and said, "Well, young Master Qin is rich now. Don't you know that tea, rice, oil, and salt are expensive? Can't you save money?" Qin Sheng was counterattacked. He begged for mercy. "I love you. I can't bear to leave you alone in Shanghai, so I'm making it up to you." "Well, let me think about it. I don't want to go shopping. I have nothing to buy. How about I ask for a day off tomorrow? You can go to Disneyland with me. The Disneyland in Shanghai has been open for a long time. I haven't been there yet." Lin Su said. She also wanted to accompany Qin Sheng. Qin Sheng nodded without hesitation. "Okay, since my wife has asked, I dare not to say no. But you haven't told me who the man is." Lin Su was amused by Qin Sheng again. She had not changed the topic. She had no choice but to tell him Zhao Changle's background, so that Qin Sheng would not continue to ask. After Qin Sheng heard it, he scolded, "Damn it. He is from our company. Doesn't he know you are the wife of the crown prince of the group? He is so bold. No, I have to find a way to kill this trend. Otherwise, there will be people in the company thinking about you." Lin Su was confused. "What do you want to do?" "I won't tell you. Let's eat. Go to bed early tonight. I'll go to Disneyland with you tomorrow." Qin Sheng said happily. He had already thought of a plan. After dinner, Qin Sheng took the initiative to clean up the mess. He let Lin Su stay on the sofa to watch TV. After that, he went back to the living room to accompany Lin Su. Lin Su lay on Qin Sheng's lap. Qin Sheng stroked her hair and fed her fruits. He enjoyed the treatment of the Empress Dowager. After a while, Qin Sheng took out his phone from the bedroom. He found that the WeChat messages and phone calls were full, including those of his sister and Xiaoding. His sister had nothing to do. She asked Qin Sheng and Lin Su how their world was. Xiaoding was different. After all, he had helped Qin Sheng today. He wanted to drink with Qin Sheng at night. At first, his messages were more polite. He teased Qin Sheng if the battle was over. Later, Qin Sheng did not answer his WeChat calls. Xiaoding directly said, "Damn it, brother, don't do this. Burn the bridge after crossing the river. You are so heartless. What do you mean by not answering my messages? Believe it or not, I will come to your house at any time." Lin Su, who was lying in Qin Sheng's arms, was amused by Xiaoding. She could not help but say, "Why did you make it known to everyone?" Feeling embarrassed, Qin Sheng had no choice but to call Uncle Xiaoding back in a hurry and comfort him, in case this uncle really came to kill him later. At the same time, he asked him to make arrangements for Lao Chong and made an appointment to have dinner together the next day. Only then did Xiaoding put down the fire. As for his sister, it was easier to reply. Qin Jing shouted that she wanted to see her sister-in-law. Fortunately, Lin Su did not hear it. Early in the morning, Qin Sheng took Lin Su out to Disneyland. Lin Su had asked her friend to buy the tickets. Although the gate had just opened early in the morning, there was already a long line at the gate. Fortunately, Lin Su's friend was helpful. He arranged a VIP passage for the whole journey, which saved them the trouble of waiting in line. It was rare for her to relax. In addition, Lin Su was a girl. She took Qin Sheng everywhere to eat, drink, and play. She wore a Mickey Mouse headdress on her head and Disney wallpaper on her face. Qin Sheng was also dressed up like a cartoon character. Of course, she bought a lot of things. Qin Sheng did not have any objection. Since he knew Lin Su, he had not played with her much. He would make it up to her in the future. The two of them played in Disneyland until the afternoon. They were not ready to go home until they were exhausted. At this time, Lin Su received a call. She walked to Qin Sheng nervously and said, "Honey, I want to discuss something with you." Qin Sheng was confused. "What's wrong? Why do you look a little unhappy all of a sudden?" "Well, Lin Zhe wants to see you. He begged me many times. I don't know why he wants to see you. If you don't want to see him, I'll turn him down," Lin Su said nervously. After all, she knew that Qin Sheng did not have a good impression of the Lin family. Moreover, what happened in Ningbo last time was so big. It seemed that everything had been solved, but in fact they had completely broken up. Of course, Lin Su was on Qin Sheng's side. It could be seen from the fact that Lin Su called Lin Zhe by his name instead of brother. For Qin Sheng, what happened in the Lin family was over. He had already let it go. After all, the Lin family was no longer a threat to him. However, he had been thinking about this matter. He did not care about the Lin family, but Lin Su was a daughter of the Lin family. He was afraid that the whole Lin family had a bad opinion of Lin Su last time. He did not know how to ease the relationship in a short time. He could not stay away from her forever. After thinking about these things, Qin Sheng thought for a while and made a decision. He said half-jokingly, "Then I'll see him. After all, he is my brother-in-law." Qin Sheng's decision surprised Lin Su. She was more or less touched. She knew that Qin Sheng was actually thinking about her. Qin Sheng hugged Lin Su and said calmly, "Silly girl, don't think so much. What happened in the past is over. I was a little impulsive last time. Anyway, they are your family. You can't not have a family, can you?" Lin Su was touched and took the initiative to kiss him. "Honey, thank you," Qin Sheng said unhappily on purpose. "Don't say thank you or sorry. Otherwise, I will be really unhappy." Lin Su stopped talking. She buried her head in Qin Sheng's chest and felt his warmth. Chapter 512. Qin Sheng remembered how Lin Su looked like in the beginning, how she looked when they traveled together, how she looked when they parted ways, how she looked when he first met Lin Su when he returned to Shanghai, and how he looked when he chased after Lin Su. The only thing he could not remember was when Lin Su became like this. Maybe it started when they were in Xiamen, or maybe it started when her family exerted pressure on her. Qin Sheng felt very sorry for Lin Su, but he did not intend to say sorry, because it was useless to say sorry. The real apology could be made up with action. So Qin Sheng could not help but say, "Wife, after this stage, I will discuss with my family about our marriage." This was not the first time Qin Sheng said this. Lin Su knew what Qin Sheng wanted to express, but she did not want to give him too much pressure. Moreover, they would get married sooner or later. So she just nodded. The two of them did not continue to stay in Disneyland. After they came out, they went to the place that they had agreed to meet with Lin Zhe. Qin Sheng wanted to meet this brother-in-law first. Now that this brother-in-law probably did not dare to show off in front of him anymore, Qin Sheng wanted to see what he was up to today. In fact, it was good to take this opportunity to ease the relationship with the Lin family. They could not wait until they were about to get married. At that time, it would be more awkward for the two families to sit together. Lin Zhe had just arrived in Shanghai a few days ago. This time, he also came with a mission. Many people in the Lin family had entrusted him with a heavy responsibility. After all, Qin Sheng was someone they could not help but look up to, and Lin Su had also obtained 40% of the Lin family's property. Even if they had strong opinions about Qin Sheng and Lin Su, or were very disgusted with them, they had to lower their heads to the interests. Moreover, everyone was very clear in their hearts that whoever lowered their heads earlier would be able to eat more cake. This was the reality. Lin Zhe and Lin Su agreed to meet at a coffee shop in Riverside Park. This was the place where Lin Zhe often brought the young ladies to. At this time, he had already arrived and was waiting for Lin Su and Qin Sheng. In fact, he did not have any hope when he called Lin Su today. Moreover, he also knew that Qin Sheng was not in Shanghai recently. He just wanted Lin Su to pass a message to Qin Sheng. If there was time, they could meet and ease the relationship between them. Who asked him to offend Qin Sheng so much in the past? Now that he had lost his previous position in the Lin family, he naturally had to suck up to Lin Su and Qin Sheng. Although he and Lin Su were half-siblings, they were more or less related by blood. Who knew that, after making the call today, Qin Sheng happened to be in Shanghai? What was out of his expectation was that Qin Sheng actually agreed to meet him, which made Lin Zhe somewhat nervous. After all, he still had the sequela of the disturbance in the Lin family in Ningbo last time. Feeling that it was almost time, Lin Zhe, who was restless, waited at the entrance of the cafe. He kept pacing back and forth, showing that he was very uneasy. When he saw Qin Sheng and Lin Su, he quickly walked up to them. This was the first time Lin Zhe had seen Qin Sheng and Lin Su after more than a month. He ran over quickly, but suddenly realized that he did not know how to greet them. It would be too stiff if he called them by their names directly. Moreover, their relationship was rather stiff to begin with. However, if he called them younger sister or brother-in-law, it would be even more abrupt. Therefore, Lin Zhe could only say awkwardly, "Here you are." Ever since she was young, Lin Su had never had a good impression of her brother. Apart from being related by blood, they did not seem to have much of a relationship. To Lin Zhe, Lin Su's existence was a part of his inheritance, so he had always bullied Lin Su. However, their status was different now. In the future, Lin Zhe would have to serve this younger sister like a great aunt. Qin Sheng was carrying the things that he had bought at Disneyland in his hands. Lin Su held Qin Sheng's arm tightly. The young couple looked very loving, which was really enviable to others. Out of respect for Lin Su, Qin Sheng smiled and greeted him. "Brother Lin, sorry to keep you waiting." Qin Sheng's words could be said to have given Lin Zhe a lot of face. Moreover, Qin Sheng took the initiative to call him Brother Lin, which made Lin Zhe feel flattered. He said, "Ha ha ha, it's my duty." Qin Sheng said in a low voice, "Let's find a place to sit down and talk." The three of them randomly found a quiet place outside. At least they would not be disturbed by the surrounding people. After sitting down, Lin Su took the initiative to ask them what they wanted to drink. After that, she left to order at the bar counter. After Lin Su left, Lin Zhe became more and more embarrassed. He did not know what to say, nor did he know what to say to Qin Sheng. He could not help but regret coming to see Qin Sheng. After the last time, he knew his position clearly. He did not dare to take Qin Sheng lightly like before. Instead, he clearly understood that he was now a fart in front of Qin Sheng. Qin Sheng could easily kill him, so he became more and more cautious. Lin Zhe did not speak, and Qin Sheng could not also not speak, which would make both of them more embarrassed. Therefore, Qin Sheng took the initiative to break the silence. "Brother Lin, how is Grandma's health?" Lindsay replied in a hurry. She's fine. But she has been thinking about you. Speaking of which, I don't know when you will go back to see her." Qin Sheng smiled and said, "I'm afraid that we will not be welcomed when we go back." "How is that possible? What happened in the past is in the past. Everyone has let it go now. Moreover, we did something wrong in the first place. We are all reflecting on ourselves. They all said that they will apologize to you in person and hope that you will forgive them. Therefore, if you go back, everyone will be very happy." Lindsay was really thick-skinned. When he said this, his face was not red, and his heart did not beat fast. If it were an ordinary person, he would definitely not be like this. However, Qin Sheng suddenly laughed out loud and said, "Actually, whether they or you welcome us or not, we don't care at all." Ha ha. What Qin Sheng said made Lin Zay's face very pale, but he could only smile along. Then Qin Sheng patted Lin Zay's shoulder and said, "I'm just kidding. Don't be so nervous." Lin Zay smiled awkwardly. No matter how unhappy he was, he had to bow to reality. Now that Qin Sheng's background was too powerful, they could not rival him at all, let alone challenge him. Therefore, whatever Qin Sheng said was right. Lin Zay did not know what to say, so Qin Sheng continued, "Brother Lin, we are all adults and smart people. In our world, there is no right or wrong, only interests. Let's not talk about the past and talk about the present. I know that you want to ease the relationship, otherwise you would not want to see me. In fact, I also want to ease the relationship. You do it for interests. I just want to make Susu happy so that she will not have to face all the cold faces when she goes back to the Lin family. Therefore, as long as you treat Susu well, I will take you seriously, and naturally, you will benefit a lot. If you don't treat Susu well, not to mention benefits, as long as I want to make trouble for you, are you my opponent?" Qin Sheng's words were very direct, more or less disrespectful to Lin Zay. But there was no need for him to be polite to Lin Zay. They might as well get to the point and talk about each other's needs so that the conversation would be more efficient. No matter what Qin Sheng said today, Lin Zay would smile apologetically and nod his head. Even if Qin Sheng humiliated and scolded him, he would not have any complaints. This was definitely not about being flexible. It was just that compared to the potential benefits that he could gain, what else could he do? Moreover, from Qin Sheng's words, Lin Zay already knew what Qin Sheng was thinking, which was that nothing else mattered, except Susu. Lin Zay replied with a smile, "You are right. Our family owes Susu too much these years, and we will definitely make it up to her in the future. I don't know about others, but as her brother, I can definitely promise you." Qin Sheng smiled happily and said, "That's right. I know you are a smart man, Brother Lin. I hope you can put in a good word for Uncle Lin." Of course, Lin Zay hurriedly promised. The old man cared too much about his reputation, so he would gradually accept this fact. Qin Sheng then said, "I won't spend much time in Shanghai these days because there are many things to take care of at home in Beijing. If you're often in Shanghai, please help me take care of Susu." Of course. Lin Zay nodded with a smile. Qin Sheng said thoughtfully, "Next time if you go to Beijing, tell me in advance, and I will buy you a drink." Hearing this, Lin Zay's eyes suddenly lit up. This was a great honor. If he had a chance to get in touch with Qin Sheng's circle in Beijing and make some friends, he would be like a fish in water in the future in the circle of Jiangsu and Zhejiang. At this time, Lin Su had already bought the coffee and returned. Qin Sheng and Lin Zay were sensible enough to stop the topic just now. He had said what he wanted to say. Now it was time to see what Lin Zay would do. He was too lazy to worry about this kind of trivial matter. He only needed to see the results. Qin Sheng and Lin Su did not stay there for long. They chatted with Lin Zay for less than half an hour before they left. They talked about the Lin family and Lin Changhe's recent reorganization of the Lin family's resources. He planned to transfer all the businesses of the Lin family in Shanghai to Lin Su and let Lin Su be in charge. This time, Lin Zay also wanted Lin Su to take some time to go back to Ningbo. After all, these things needed her presence. "What did you talk about just now?" On the way home, Lin Su asked casually, because she could see that her brother was in a good mood when he left, and she thought that he must have gotten some benefits from Qin Sheng. Qin Sheng deliberately kept her in suspense, smiled, and shook his head. Nothing, I just hope that they can treat you better, and I hope that Uncle Lin can calm down. Lin Su obviously did not believe it. She squinted and stared at Qin Sheng suspiciously, but did not ask further. After resting for half an hour in Shermao Riviera Garden, Qin Sheng and Lin Su were ready to set off after Xia Ding called them. Qin Sheng asked Lin Su to book the place for dinner, which was a creative restaurant with a good environment. Besides Xia Ding and Chang Baji, Qin Ran and Qin Jing were also there. Qin Jing had been asking for 2 days, and if she was not allowed to meet her future sister-in-law, she would really be angry. In order to meet Lin Su, her future sister-in-law, Qin Jing specially went to buy a new dress today. Originally, she had seen Lin Su in the company yesterday, but at that time, Lin Su happened to be in a meeting, so she missed it perfectly. These juniors of the Qin family were ready to enjoy a big meal in Shanghai, while the 2 elders of the Qin family were under a lot of pressure in Beijing. Today, Zhao Anji took the initiative to tell the Zhao family her position on the matter of Qin Chang'an, which put the Zhao family in a difficult position, and they did not want to be involved. Chapter 5:13. I'm not sure about the second chapter today. On the way back to Xian, I'll update the next chapter first. The Zhao family had a deep background. Otherwise, how could they have married into the Qin family? It was just that they were very low-key, so low-key that most people thought they had declined. Zhao Anji dared to lay her cards on the table this time because she felt that she had done too much for the Zhao family, and the Zhao family should compensate her. Zhao Anji's parents had passed away for many years. She had returned to China several times because the 2 old people were not in good health. Logically speaking, Zhao Anji's father's rank was not very high, but his position was very important. Later, the old man had many leading students. This was also an important reason why the Zhao family could continue to maintain their status after the death of the old man. In addition, Zhao Anji's elder brother and younger sister were good at business. They knew how to use these resources and relationships, so the Zhao family was not kicked out of the upper ranks. After her parents passed away, Zhao Anji's elder brother was the only one left in her family. Her younger sister was married out, so she had already become someone else's daughter-in-law. Therefore, Zhao Anji naturally laid her cards on the table to her elder brother. Zhao Anji's elder brother was called Zhao Xinjuan. He had retired a few years ago and did not go to the second line to continue playing, let alone show his face in public. He quietly raised cats and took care of his grandson at home. He felt that this was the life that belonged to him. He had dedicated his whole life to his career, and now it was time for him to rest. Zhao Xinjuan was very puzzled. Some people were unwilling to make room. They occupied the latrine and did not give way to young people, for fear that the tea would be cold if they left. Zhao Xinjuan did not care about this at all. When in office, people would worry if they did not do good deeds. If they had a clear conscience and had students all over the world, they would still be remembered even after 10 or 20 years. These were the wise words left by the old man, and Zhao Xinjuan had been using them to this day. Why don't you just stay in Canada? Why do you have to come back and get involved in this mess? I don't know what you're thinking. Zhao Xinjuan was a little hunchbacked, and his hair had already turned white. After all, he was an old man who was nearly 70 years old. However, his aura was still so strong. This was the official prestige that had infected the officialdom for many years. There were only the 2 of them in the garden. Both of Zhao Xinjuan's sons were working in the government. Now, they could be considered to have made some achievements. At least, they could be considered leaders. Usually, there were only him, his wife, and his little grandson. Occasionally, a few friends or students would come to visit. Anyway, they were never lonely. Zhao Anji teased a lazy cat lying not far away. Her sister-in-law had taken her grandson out for a walk, giving the siblings some space to chat. Her sister-in-law had never cared about the trifling matters of the outside world, but she had taken care of everything related to the family. Her greatest achievement was raising her 2 sons. After all, Zhao Zhenjuan had almost no time to take care of his children. Now that his two sons were both very outstanding, she was very pleased. Zhao Anji said disapprovingly, "I'm the daughter-in-law of the Qin family. How can I watch the fire from the other side at this time? That's not right. If Yaya finds out in the future, she will definitely scold me as her mother." Zhao Zhenjuan snorted and said, "Old Qin's daughter-in-law? All these years, what kind of relationship do you have with the Qin family? It has long been in name only. You should not have married Qin Chongqing, that coward." Just as the Zhu family and the Qin family were strangers, the relationship between the Zhao family and the Qin family was similar. After all, not everyone could accept Qin Chongqing's decision to live in seclusion and become a monk. This was completely abandoning Zhao Anji. Moreover, Zhao Anji was pregnant at that time. How could a Zhao family not have any complaints? All these years, Zhao Anji had been living alone in Canada with Yaya. It was all because Qin Chongqing had completely broken her heart that they had not seen each other many times. If Zhao Anji had not begged him several times, he would not have helped Qin Chang'an. It would have been best if they did not contact each other until they died. At the mention of this matter, Zhao Anji was very angry and asked, "I also want to know. It seems that you didn't stop him at that time. You even said that this is a good marriage, where you can ask us in your dreams and let him explain to you." Zhao Zhenjuan knew that this was said out of anger. He quickly smiled and said, "What are you talking about? Don't you just want me to help Qin Chang'an? Do you need to make such a big fuss? I don't even want to see my niece." Zhao Anji said angrily, "You still know that you have a niece. Isn't your niece a member of the Qin family? Qin Chang'an gave your niece a lot of dowry. She will rely on this dowry for the rest of her life. Do you want to help her?" Zhao Zhenjuan already knew about this. Just now, Zhao Anji also told him everything. He sighed and said, "Anji, it is not a good thing to get involved at this time. What will you get if you win? It is nothing more than a little benefit. If you lose, you'll have to pay too much. No matter whether you win or lose, all the favors you have saved in this life will be used up. Why bother?" Zhao Anji squinted and said, "If I don't use the favors, do I have to take them with me to the coffin?" "Brother, our Zhao family is very good at using the favors. I am afraid that you want to keep them for your two sons. Don't think that I don't know your ambition." Zhao Zhenjuan smiled bitterly and did not argue on this matter. He had high hopes for his two sons. Today, they did not let him down. The Zhao family knew how to keep a low profile. If one did not reach a certain level, he would have to pay a price for being high profile. There were too many examples over the years. Zhao Zhenjuan had to be careful. Zhao Zhenjuan suddenly said with a serious face, "Anji, tell me, what do you want to do? I don't want to accept this fate. Qin Chang'an doesn't want to accept it, and I won't either. It is nothing more than restarting what happened 20 years ago. Back then, I did not have the ability to stop those things from happening. Now, I will not back down." Zhao Anji said firmly, "Brother, tell me, will you help me this time?" The old man chose not to help back then. Are you going to do the same? When it was related to the fate of the family and the future of too many people, Zhao Zhenjuan would not only care about his brother and sister. So he thought for a while and said, "Let me think about it. This is not child's play. It involves too many things. I have to think about it carefully." "Well, then you take your time to think about it." Zhao Anji stood up slowly and said. She was more or less disappointed, but she absolutely understood. They were not young people who were swayed by their emotions. They had been in this environment for so many years. They would weigh the pros and cons before doing anything. After all, one person's decision involved the fate of too many people. Although the result in the garden of the Zhao family was not very satisfactory, the atmosphere was still harmonious. However, the atmosphere on Qin Chang'an's side was not harmonious. It seemed to be a little hostile. "You are finally willing to see me," Qin Chang'an said calmly, but everyone could hear the complaint in his words. This was the lakeside of a park. The two men stood facing each other, but they could not see each other's faces clearly. No one around them would disturb them, because the area had been blocked 10 meters away. All the bodyguards were dressed in black. Even if Chang Baji came, he might not be able to get close to them. The man whose face could not be seen clearly was not surprised by Qin Chang'an's resentment. He just smiled slightly and said, You have resentment. It seems that you have been under a lot of pressure recently. Would you believe me if I said it was easy? Qin Chang'an sneered. It could be seen that the two had a good relationship, but it seemed that there were some contradictions. The man looked at the lights in the distance and said, "You are already so old. There are some things that you still don't understand. Everyone is avoiding you, not necessarily because they are really unwilling to help you. It is just that if they jump out at this critical point, it is nothing more than pushing you one step further into the fire pit. The more you struggle, the uglier your death will be. Don't you understand this principle?" Qin Chang'an was lost in thought. After a while, he shook his head and said, "I don't understand. When it is necessary to help, you will definitely help. When it is not necessary to help, you must not help. Everyone knows how to weigh the pros and cons. You have been struggling for so many years, so you know it better than anyone else. So when it really comes to that, don't blame others," the man said earnestly. He also hoped that Qin Chang'an could understand these things. Qin Chang'an snorted and said, "Some principles are very simple. There is no need to make it so complicated. In fact, it is about whether you want to help or not. At this level, it is useless to say anything else. There is a huge difference between helping and not helping. Maybe one word from you people can decide all the fates." Qin Chang'an's words were very heavy, which made the man frown slightly. There was some disappointment and displeasure in his eyes. He said lightly, "Because of this, you have to be careful. Chang'in, in fact, every time you divide the cake, you are gambling on the fate of the country. You people bet correctly the last time you divided the cake. Now, when you divide the cake again, if you do not make a good choice, it will become the cake of others. Is it useful to say these now?" Qin Chang'an said disapprovingly. He understood the general principles, but these things were not just words, nor could they be done. Who could bet correctly every time? Today, Qin Chang'an was more or less not very steady. Maybe it was because things were getting more and more difficult. More and more people chose to avoid meeting him. How could he not feel pressure? The man looked into the distance with his hands behind his back. Inadvertently, he thought of a great man's words, but he did not say it to Qin Chang'an. He smiled and said, "Whether it is useful or not, it is your business." "Then why did you choose to meet me today?" Qin Chang'an asked curiously. He did not believe that there was no reason. This man would never do things without a reason. The man said thoughtfully, "If you take a step back, you may have a better result. If you fight for one step, you may lose everything. Even if you win, you will still lose. But the probability of you winning is getting smaller and smaller." His words were like 5 thunders, which made Qin Chang'an lose his mind instantly. He was speechless for a long time. It seemed that this man's words had sealed the coffin of everything. The man did not pay attention to Qin Chang'an, who was in shock. He sighed and left slowly. In the eyes of some people, Qin Chang'an and the others were really nothing, because some people's journey was really like the sea of stars. Nobody could stop their footsteps. Qin Chang'an was just like an abandoned chess piece. An abandoned chess piece should have the awareness of being abandoned. If he realized it earlier, he might get more compensation. But who would be willing to be an abandoned chess piece? Chapter 514. Many people believed in fate, and many others didn't. It didn't matter whether they believed in fate or not. When something really happened, it depended on the specific situation and the specific person. For example, some people might accept their fate, while some people wanted to fight against fate. If they didn't fight, they would definitely lose. If they fought, they might win. Even if they lost, they would accept it. Qin Chang'an was such a person. Maybe everyone in the Qin family had such a temper. They would never give up until the end. Therefore, even if he knew the result or possibility, Qin Chang'an would never admit defeat. There is no such thing as admitting defeat in his dictionary. The Qin family didn't admit defeat at that time. They fought to the end and almost ruined their family. In the end, they paid a heavy price. The Qin family would still do the same today. They would fight to the end, even if they had nothing and even if they lost their reputation. When Qin Chang'an came to himself, the man who was in a high position and could really help him had left. Qin Chang'an didn't fall as he had imagined. On the contrary, he burst out with a kind of heroic spirit of fighting against fate and not admitting defeat, because he was completely relieved. It should be said that he cut off his retreat and fought with his life on the line. Abandoned? Impossible. Even if I was a chess piece, I would never be abandoned. The Qin family would never be abandoned. Don't you want to see me, Qin Chang'an, fall? You want me to accept my fate and admit defeat, but I won't. Even if I fall, I will drag a large group of you to the bottom and make you pay a certain price. Haha. Qin Chang'an laughed. At this moment, Qin Chang'an was the real Qin Chang'an. At this moment, Qin Chang'an was the real descendant of the Qin family. He had the spirit of the old master in those days. In fact, the man who had left quietly knew that no matter what he said, Qin Chang'an would never admit defeat so easily. Some people's natures were ingrained in their bones. This was what he relied on to survive. If it was gone, he would die too. Qin Chang'an's eyes lit up. Therefore, this was the most important reason why he was always unwilling to see Qin Chang'an. But in the end, he still saw Qin Chang'an in order to return a favor. Secondly, he wanted to try. What if? He knew very well that if Qin Chang'an chose the most difficult path, many of his friends would become his enemies. Why should he do that? In Shanghai, Qin Sheng and Lin Su had already arrived at the place where they were going to have dinner. It was a private restaurant located in Jing, and this restaurant was hidden in an unknown alley and only served one table of people every day. The boss and the lady boss were known as the great gods of the Shanghai food circle. They had won too many awards, but it was a pity that they were not willing to show their faces in public. After they got married, they started running this restaurant. However, most of the time, they were traveling abroad, and they never accepted reservations. Their return time was also uncertain, so if one wanted to eat their dishes, it was really up to fate. It was all thanks to Lin Su that they were so lucky tonight. The lady boss happened to be Lin Su's good friend. Lin Su was just trying her luck to ask. She did not expect that they had just returned to Shanghai last night, so they happened to book a room here. Qin Sheng, Qin Ran, and Chang Baji arrived first. It was really not easy to find this place. They could only park their car outside the alley. They had to walk for a few minutes before they could come in. There was a mahogany signboard hanging on the door of the courtyard. It was called Hidden House. The lady boss had already been waiting for Lin Su at the door of the small courtyard. After seeing them, she smiled and said, "Hello, Su, long time no see. You finally think of me." The lady boss was nearly 40 years old, but she took good care of herself. She was wearing a cotton and linen long dress, and her hair was tied up casually. Although she had been chasing after delicious food all her life, her figure was so well maintained that it made many young girls feel ashamed. Lin Su smiled, held the lady boss's hand, and said, "Sister Lu, I'm here to see you." The lady boss used to be quite familiar with Lin Su. However, they did not contact each other in the past 2 years. Some friends, even if they did not contact each other, still cared about each other. They could naturally see each other when they wanted to. "I haven't seen you for almost 2 years. You are more beautiful than before. I heard from some friends that you left Shanghai. Are you back now?" Sister Lu asked with a smile. Her smile was very warm, like the warm sun in winter, which made people feel very comfortable. Only a kind-hearted person could have such a smile. Lin Su replied calmly, "Something happened, so I left Shanghai for a period of time. I just came back a while ago. I won't leave in a short time. So, Sister Lu, if you miss me in the future, we can go shopping anytime." Of course, of course." Sister Lu smiled happily. Then she looked at Qin Sheng and Chang Baji behind Lin Su. After looking at them for a while, she said playfully, "Why don't you introduce them to me?" The two of them exchanged glances. Of course, they understood each other's meaning and could not help laughing. Lin Su held Qin Sheng's arm and said, "Sister Lu, this is my boyfriend, Qin Sheng, and this is our good friend, Chang Baji." Chang Baji just nodded politely. Sister Lu smiled back. Qin Sheng greeted her more warmly. "Sister Lu, I heard Susu talk about you a long time ago. You are a great figure in the Shanghai food circle. You are proficient in all kinds of Chinese and Western cuisines. You are the youngest state banquet chef. Today I finally meet you." Hearing these titles, Sister Lu did not know whether to laugh or cry. She said, "It's all in the past. Now I'm just an ordinary person." Sister Lu and Brother Lu are living in seclusion. "It's really enviable," Qin Sheng said with a smile. Sister Lu could not help but say, "Stop flattering me. Let's go in and talk. Lao Lu is almost ready. When will your friends arrive?" Lin Su raised her wrist and looked at the time. She said calmly, "They are on the way. They should be here soon." Everyone followed Sister Lu into the house. The decoration of the house was very simple. It pursued minimalist art. Most of the materials were made of raw wood. Moreover, it was designed by Sister Lu and her husband. So sometimes one had to admit that geniuses were geniuses. They could master many things. After they came in and sat down, Sister Lu's husband came out. They greeted this man politely. The man was slightly plump, but was very simple and honest. His cooking skills were even better than Sister Lu's. He used to be the head chef of a Michelin 3-star restaurant. Later, he was obsessed with the 8 major Chinese cuisines. So he returned to China and met Sister Lu. A series of things happened between them. They had been chasing after delicious food and beautiful scenery all their lives. They had never thought about chasing after the man beside them. Maybe they did not meet the right person, so they had been single until they met each other. 10,000 years passed in a blink of an eye. They did not hesitate to get married and then lived like a celestial couple. "Susu, I heard that you are in love. Today, you finally met the one who made so many men in Shanghai jealous. You are indeed a talent." Sister Lu's husband laughed and joked. Lin Su looked at Sister Lu and replied, "Brother Lu married Sister Lu. It's really enviable. These years, there are at least 800 elite talents chasing after Sister Lu." Brother Lu laughed and said, "Susu is still so good at talking." Just as they were chatting, Xia Ding's signature lascivious smile was heard outside the door. Xia Ding said proudly, "TSK, TSK, TSK. I tried my best, but couldn't get a dish from Hidden House. I didn't expect you to get it so easily. You're the boss. My pain last night was not in vain." Sister Lu and Brother Lu looked at each other. Qin Sheng quickly explained, "My friend is here. He is a playboy who doesn't learn anything." At this time, Xia Ding pushed the door open and entered. Qin Sheng smiled and greeted him. He joked, "I didn't expect you to know about Hidden House. You are so smart. Why didn't you treat me to a meal?" Xia Ding, who was dressed in a suit and had just rushed over from the company, was speechless. He said, "Boss, everyone knows about Hidden House. Some people are willing to spend millions to have a meal there. Do you think I don't want to treat you?" They open their doors according to their mood. They only serve 1 table a day. Sometimes they close for a few months. It's harder than going to heaven. That's why I said you have a bigger card. I got lucky today. Qin Sheng could not be bothered with this guy. This guy's words were getting more and more exaggerated. After he walked over with Xia Ding, he introduced Sister Lu and Brother Lu to Xia Ding. Xia Ding was amazed by these two. After a round of flattery, Sister Lu smiled widely. After chatting with them for a while, Sister Lu and Brother Lu went into the kitchen to prepare for today's feast. Xia Ding looked at Lin Su and said, "Sister-in-law, you look so radiant today." Everyone could tell what Xia Ding was trying to say. Lin Su blushed in embarrassment. Qin Sheng glared at him directly. Lin Su used to be Xia Ding's goddess. Xia Ding tried to chase after her, but Lin Su ignored him. Who knew that she would become Qin Sheng's girlfriend in the end? Xia Ding didn't know whether to laugh or cry. If it was someone else, they would be embarrassed to see Qin Sheng and Lin Su. Xia Ding didn't care. He was thick-skinned. After talking about some trivial things, Xia Ding saw that Qin Sheng didn't want to sit down. He asked confusedly, "Boss, is there someone else tonight?" "Uh-huh. Do you think I would choose to stay in a hermitage when I treat you to dinner?" "That would be such a waste," Qin Sheng said impatiently. Of course, he was joking. Anyway, this was how they chatted. As expected, Xia Ding scolded him with a smile. "What the F***CK, boss, don't be like this. At least give me some face. Am I not worthy of you treating me to a hermitage?" But then he said, Forget it, forget it. Who asked me to be careless in making friends? Then tell me honestly, who is the important person that you pay so much attention to? Anyway, it can't be a beautiful woman. Otherwise, You wouldn't dare to bring sister-in-law with you. Qin Sheng said, they are really two beauties. I wanted to introduce them to you. Forget it. Xiaoding opened his eyes wide. They were two beauties. He definitely didn't know them. Otherwise, he would have known. Qin Sheng wouldn't keep him in suspense. Lin Su thought it was only her sister. She didn't expect that there would be other people. But she didn't ask. She just said softly, Sister hasn't arrived yet? Why don't you call and ask? It's not easy to find this place. I have to go out and pick her up in advance. Sister? Xia Ding frowned. What do you mean? Boss, is your sister coming? Qin Sheng said happily. What do you think? My sister is definitely a beauty. Do you want to be my brother-in-law? Do you want to know? Xia Ding saw Qin Sheng's fake smile and quickly shook his head. Although I'm very interested, I think it's better to be alive. Forget it. Qin Sheng laughed. This guy and Han Su were really jackals of the same tribe. Their answers were basically the same. If they knew each other, they would definitely play together. At this time, Qin Sheng's phone rang. Seeing that it was his sister's call, Qin Sheng quickly picked it up and was ready to go out and pick her up. Lin Su said lightly, I'll go with you. Qin Sheng smiled and refused. I'll go with you. Chapter 5:15. After all, Qin Ran was Qin Sheng's sister. Moreover, she had brought her friends here today. Lin Su felt that going out to welcome them was the most basic form of respect. Chang Baji and Xia Ding could choose not to go, but she had to go. Otherwise, others would think that she was very impolite. However, Qin Sheng did not let her go with him, which made Lin Su very confused. The way Qin Sheng and Lin Su got along with each other was different from that of most couples. They had a tacit understanding with each other. With just a glance, an action, or a sentence, they would know what the other party was thinking. Therefore, Lin Su felt that Qin Sheng should understand since she had already spoken. However, Qin Sheng did not agree. Lin Su was a little unhappy. Who didn't have some emotions? Chang Baji and Xia Ding could clearly feel that something was wrong with Lin Su, but Chang Baji did not say anything. Of course, he knew what was going on. Xia Ding, on the other hand, was puzzled. Sister-in-law, why are you so upset? Lin Su said casually. Nothing. I just remembered that I have some work to do. Xia Ding said happily. Sister-in-law, why are you still working? Big brother is a super rich second generation now. You have suffered so much with him. It's time for you to enjoy life. Ha ha. Lin Su only smiled politely and did not say anything. That was not the life she wanted. Qin Ran and Qin Jing didn't dare to come in. Moreover, they didn't know the exact location. They could only ask the driver to accompany them and wait for Qin Sheng here. Qin Ran and Qin Jing didn't dare to come in. Qin Jing complained, Sister, what kind of place did brother choose? Qin Ran was also confused. However, since it was Qin Sheng and Lin Su's choice, she could not say anything. Fortunately, at this time, she saw Qin Sheng coming out. So she smiled faintly and said, How would I know? He is here. You can ask him. When Qin Sheng walked closer, Qin Jing complained, Brother, what is this place? We don't even dare to go in. Qin Sheng knew that his sister and Yaya definitely did not know the story of Hermitage, so he told them the story of Sister Lu and Brother Lu. After listening to it, they were not confused at all. On the contrary, they were very interested. After all, this was a place where many people wanted to uproot. Is it really that delicious? Qin Jing asked curiously. Qin Sheng shook his head and smiled bitterly. I don't know either. Qin Jing did not continue to ask these questions. Instead, she cared about the most curious question and said, Hee, has my sister-in-law arrived yet? I can't wait to see her. By the way, you didn't tell her that I was coming, did you? Qin Sheng didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He flicked Yaya's little chestnut and said, You naughty girl, I definitely didn't say anything. She said she would come out to pick you up, but I didn't let her come out. I guess she is still blaming me. Then let's go in quickly. Don't let sister-in-law wait for too long. After saying that, Qin Jing pulled Qin Sheng's arm and walked inside. When they were a few meters away from the alley, Qin Sheng felt a little creepy behind him. He had a natural vigilance, as if someone was staring at them. Therefore, he turned around subconsciously and took a few glances. However, he did not find any clues. "What's wrong?" Qin Ran asked, puzzled. Qin Sheng shook his head and said, "It's okay. It might be a cat or a dog." Although he said so, Qin Sheng dared not let his guard down. He kept observing the surrounding situation at all times. He had a lot of enemies, and many of them had grudges against the Qin family. In addition, the Qin family was in a bad situation recently. There might be people who dared to take risks out of desperation. Therefore, it was not a bad thing to be careful. Nothing unexpected happened along the way. After walking into the yard, Qin Sheng was relieved. He pushed the door open and led Qin Jing, and Qin ran into the house. Qin Jing deliberately held Qin Sheng's arm tightly, showing a very intimate look. Was she trying to make Lin Su jealous? In the house, Lin Su was talking to Sister Lu. Sister Lu asked when their friends would arrive. The cold dishes were all prepared, and the hot dishes had to be prepared in advance. Xiaoding was the first to see Qin Sheng and the others coming in. He said subconsciously, "They are here." However, after saying that, Xiaoding's eyes widened. He thought that Qin Sheng was joking. He did not expect that the two beauties were really not inferior to Lin Su. What made Xiaoding even more stunned was that one of the beauties was holding Qin Sheng's arm tightly. Her whole body was almost leaning on Qin Sheng. Obviously, the relationship between the two was not ordinary. What the hell? What was Boss trying to do? Could it be that he found a mistress and wanted to show his cards today? Otherwise, with his real girlfriend, the goddess Lin Su, here, how could he dare to bring another woman in? Xiaoding did not dare to speak anymore. What if a fight broke out later? Sister Lu's face changed slightly when she saw this. She did not know what Qin Sheng meant. Lin Su then felt that the atmosphere was not right. She subconsciously turned to the side and looked in the direction of the door. This scene naturally came into her eyes. Because of what happened just now, Lin Su was a little unhappy. Now that she saw other beauties in Qin Sheng like this, even if Lin Su was generous, she would definitely be very unhappy. However, when she saw her sister Qin Ran walking over with a smile on her face, Lin Su felt that something was wrong. So she maintained her rationality and stood up with a smile. The most important thing was that she trusted Qin Sheng very much. She did not think that Qin Sheng was such a person. Moreover, her sister was beside him. "Sister." Lin Su smiled and held Qin Ran's hand. Qin Ran really had nothing to say about Lin Su. Although she was selfish in some things, it did not affect her approval of Lin Su. Qin Ran said very embarrassedly, "I've kept you waiting for a long time. The driver is not very familiar with the road." Lin Su shook her head and said, "We just arrived not long ago." At this time, Lin Su took the initiative to look at Qin Sheng and the beauty who was holding Qin Sheng's hand. She should be a little younger than her. She had a very fresh and light makeup on her, but she had a special temperament. There was a kind of indescribable feeling. It seemed that the beauty did not intend to let go of Qin Sheng. She was still looking at Lin Su with a provocative look. The more she behaved like this, the more Lin Su felt that there was nothing between her and Qin Sheng. So she played along with Qin Sheng and said, "What? Why don't you introduce me to your new lover?" Qin Sheng was really afraid that Lin Su would overthink. Who asked Yaya to be addicted to playing? Qin Sheng was also helpless. Before he said anything, Yaya took the initiative and said, "You must be Sister Lin Su." Lin Su smiled and said, "I am Lin Su. You probably don't know who I am. Actually, there's no need for you to know. I came here today just to tell you one thing. I want to compete with you fairly. If you know what's good for you, you can also take the initiative to give up." Qin Jing deliberately put on a righteous look and said. As soon as she said this, Qin Ran, who was next to her, almost burst into laughter, but she still held it in. Did this girl study in the performing arts department? Her acting skills were not bad. Among them, only Qin Ran, Qin Sheng, and Chang Baji knew what was going on. Of course, Yaya, the person involved, knew it very well. But Xia Ding and Sister Lu did not know. Xia Ding looked like an onlooker watching a drama. He did not expect to encounter such a big scene today. Mars collided with the Earth. Boss was too lucky with women. Two big beauties were facing each other tit for tat. Sister Lu did not look very good. Obviously, She had a lot of opinions about Qin Sheng. It seemed that she was ready to drive Qin Sheng away. Okay, Lin Su answered directly. This made Qin Jing, who prepared a series of lines, dumbfounded. She thought that her sister-in-law, who did not disappoint her, would be angry. Who knew that she would be so calm? Qin Jing wanted to say something, but in the end, she could not stand it anymore. In particular, Qin Sheng and Qin Rant's expressions made her lose face. So she gave up directly and said, "Forget it. I don't want to act anymore. You must be laughing at me." Qin Ran finally could not help but laugh. Qin Sheng shrugged helplessly, meaning that it was not his fault. He was also innocent. "Wife, don't be angry." Lin Su was a little confused. Before she could understand, Qin Jing had already let go of Qin Sheng and hugged her. Lin Su was surprised. She said in a sweet voice, "Sister-in-law, I finally get to see you." The plot was reversed. Xia Ding and Sister Lu were stunned again. What was going on? Why was it so messy? Who could explain it to them? After letting go of Lin Su, Qin Jing took the initiative to introduce herself. "Sister-in-law, you must want to know who I am. Well, first of all, I want to make it clear that I'm not your rival in love. Although I also admire the most handsome man in the world, it's a pity that I'm not fated to be with him because we're siblings." "That's right. Brother and sister?" Lin Su whispered. She had not heard that Qin Sheng had a sister. Could it be a cousin? Qin Ran could not stand it anymore. She quickly pulled Qin Jing and said, "All right, Yaya, stop fooling around. Your sister Lin Su will be angry later." Qin Ran then explained, Su, don't be angry. This girl insisted on us fooling around with her. She's Qin Sheng's and my cousin. She just came back from Canada and insisted on seeing you." Lin Su finally understood what was going on. At the same time, she stared at Qin Sheng fiercely, as if saying that this was the surprise you mentioned. It almost became a shock. "Sister-in-law, are you angry?" Qin Jing took the initiative to admit her mistake. After knowing what was going on, Lin Su naturally would not be angry. She smiled and shook her head. "No, your brother would not dare to mess around. Of course, I'm a good man in China." Qin Sheng quickly chimed in. He would definitely be blamed by Lin Su later, so he had to lower his attitude first. On the other side, Xia Ding and Sister Lu finally understood what was going on. It turned out to be a self-directed play. It really scared them. At this time, Sister Lu said, "Beautiful and handsome girls, can we start eating?" At this time, everyone was already hungry. Of course, they nodded without hesitation. Then, they moved to the restaurant of the hermit house. Qin Jing took the initiative to chat with Lin Su. She said sweetly, "Sister-in-law, you are so beautiful and elegant." Lin Su did not know whether to laugh or cry. This girl who came back from abroad was really good at talking. However, while chatting with Qin Jing, Lin Su fiercely pinched Qin Sheng under the table. Qin Sheng grimaced in pain, but still had a smile. In the alley outside the hermit house, two strange men were smoking in a dead end. Such a remote place, naturally, no one would notice them. Two men, one over 50 years old, the other in his prime. They were uncle and nephew. "Uncle, after this business, I want to go back to my hometown to get married," the young man muttered in a low voice. The older man kicked him and said, "Son of AB *TCH, you only think about women. Finish this business first. As long as you finish it, I will marry 8 to 10 wives for you." Chapter 516. Qin Sheng's intuition was right. These two strange men were dangerous. Qin Sheng, who had been around for many years, naturally felt that something was wrong. However, he did not take it seriously at this moment. Inside the house, everyone was enjoying the chef couple's China creative dishes. Sister Lu even took out a bottle of red wine that she had kept for many years. The couple had a good relationship with the top wineries. They used to go to the wineries' tasting meetings often, so they had collected a lot of good red wine. The three women were like a show. Qin Ran and Lin Su were women who did not talk much. However, with Qin Jing, the quirky girl, the atmosphere became lively instantly. Qin Jing and Lin Su both studied abroad. Although one was in Canada and the other was in England, they still had a lot to talk about. Qin Ran's role was to act as a middleman. The atmosphere was very harmonious. Chang Baji only cared about the food. Although he was not particular about food, who did not like good food? Sister Lu and Brother Lu were the legends of Shanghai's food circle. Many people wanted to try them, but unfortunately, they were not fated. Today, they were so lucky, of course, they would not miss such an opportunity. There were no waiters in the house. Sister Lu and Brother Lu did everything by themselves. They were especially strict when it came to choosing the ingredients. Sometimes, they would go to the seaside to collect fish or other seafood in the middle of the night to ensure the freshness of the ingredients. After sitting down, Xia Ding kept staring at Qin Ran and Qin Jing. He was totally convinced by Qin Sheng's life now. In the past, although Qin Sheng was the boss in the dormitory, his background and so on were relatively weak compared to them. However, after so many years, Qin Sheng was the best in all aspects. He was a real winner in life. Boss, I don't dare to think about brother-in-law. Our sister will definitely look down on a playboy like me. Then, brother-in-law, do I have any hope? I promise I won't mess around, Xia Ding whispered in Qin Sheng's ear. Qin Sheng squinted and said, if you want to be my brother-in-law, I don't have any objections as long as you can get my yaya. As for messing around, I don't care. Anyway, if you dare to mess around, I don't need to do anything. Someone will naturally cut you into pieces. Xia Ding was a little nervous as he listened, but he did not give up. He had to give it a try anyway. Moreover, he had a good impression of Yaya. So he said, that's settled. I'm definitely going to be your brother-in-law. Let's get even closer. Qin Sheng was too lazy to care about him. Love was not something he could decide. As long as the two of them liked each other, it would be fine. However, Yaya was kind-hearted and pure. If Xia Ding really messed around, Qin Sheng would not spare him. Of course, he still believed in Xia Ding's character, although this guy was a bit of a playboy. Most importantly, Qin Sheng felt that Yaya would definitely not fall for Xia Ding, so he agreed without hesitation. Of course, this was what he thought from the bottom of his heart. What are you guys talking about? Qin Jing asked curiously. Qin Sheng had introduced them to each other just now, so everyone knew each other. Qin Jing even made a few jokes with Xia Ding. Xia Ding chuckled and said, we're talking about how we can get 3 beauties to eat with us. We must have saved some planet in our past lives. Qin Jing covered her mouth and smiled. Then she asked with a smile, Brother Xia Ding, you were my brother's roommate in college. Then you must know a lot about his college life. Tell me quickly. I dare not say. Your brother will beat me to death later. Xia Ding glanced at Qin Sheng and shrugged. Qin Jing laughed and said he won't. You have our support. Since the beauty had said so, Xia Ding naturally threw caution to the wind. Anyway, the worst that could happen was that he would be beaten. However, Xia Ding still knew what he should say and what he shouldn't say. It was definitely Su Qin's business that he couldn't say. Qin Sheng had already given up treatment. He let Xia Ding talk about the trifles of his college life, which made the beauties laugh. The atmosphere of the dinner was very pleasant. When it came to the end, Sister Lu and Brother Lu came out and took the initiative to toast everyone. Then they asked with a smile, I wonder if the dishes are to your taste? If you have any suggestions, you can also bring them up. However, no one dared to say that the cooking skills of the master chef couple were not good. They all praised them at the same time. Of course, they also made a few harmless suggestions, which Sister Lu and Brother Lu were also happy to accept. After dinner, Sister Lu and Brother Lu personally sent everyone out of the courtyard. Sister Lu said politely, Su, in the future, as long as your Brother Lu and I are in Shanghai, if you want to come, just give me a call. Lin Su was very surprised and said, Sister Lu, we are treated like VIP guests. Xia Ding was a little envious. It was a pity that he did not have such treatment. Otherwise, he could bring many friends to pull weeds and punch cards. Sister Lu laughed and said, there is no such thing between friends. When everyone walked out of the courtyard, Sister Lu and Brother Lu waved their hands, turned around, and walked back to the hermit house. They had long been used to this kind of ordinary life. They could go wherever they wanted and do whatever they wanted. Most of the time, they didn't need to bother others. Xia Ding brought Chang Baji to number 1 Zhong Liang Ocean View. Anyway, Chang Baji basically stayed at Xia Ding's place when he came to Shanghai. He was getting more and more familiar with Xiaoding. Xiaoding even said that he wanted to learn martial arts from Changbaji. Of course, he had not taken any action yet. Boss, when will you go back to Beijing or stay in Shanghai? On the way out of the alley, Xiaoding asked casually. Qinsheng was not in Shanghai at the moment. Sometimes he was quite bored. Qinsheng hesitated for a while before saying, I'll go back tomorrow afternoon. I still have a lot of things to do in Beijing. Big brother, should I go back with you? Qin Jing said hesitantly. She still wanted to stay in Shanghai for a few more days, but her mother had already called her. Qinsheng laughed and said, It's okay if you want to stay. I will tell Annie. Really? Then I will stay for a few more days. I can also go out with you two sisters, Qin Jing said happily. Lin Su held Qin Sheng's arm tightly. It was a short reunion and then they parted. It might become more normal in the future, so she was more or less reluctant to leave him. Lin Su leaned her head on Qin Sheng's shoulder, not caring that others were still there. Everyone laughed and chatted as they continued to walk forward, looking very comfortable. As they walked, Changbaji, who was walking at the front, suddenly stopped. A dangerous aura hit him in the face. Qin Sheng also came to his senses in an instant, because at the intersection in front of the alley, a strange man was standing under the dim street lamp. He was holding a simple and unadorned machete in his hand. The machete shone coldly under the street lamp, making people shudder, not even though it was not cold. Everyone was a little surprised and did not know what was going on. Qin Sheng frowned and protected everyone behind him. Changbaji had already taken a few steps forward, keeping a distance from the others and blocking the danger in front of him. At this time, everyone noticed that there was a man standing under the street lamp in front of them. They also saw the machete in the man's hand. Xiaoding subconsciously exclaimed, What the F***? The other women also became nervous in an instant. However, Qin Ran and Lin Su were both women who had experienced storms, so they did not show very much panic. Qin Jing, who was relatively simple, did not understand what was going on. Qin Ran did not want her to understand, but held her tightly in her arms. Qin Ran had experienced many crises since she was a child. Once she was directly kidnapped. Even at that time, Qin Ran did not show much panic. After all, after experiencing the ups and downs of the Qin family, Qin Ran had already grown up. In the end, it was Zhuang Zhou who brought people to rescue Qin Ran. Needless to say, Lin Su, when she first met Qin Sheng and traveled in the southwest of Sichuan together, they had encountered several dangers. Later on, many more things happened, not to mention that they were besieged by the Ningbo River. Only Qin Jing had not experienced these things. Changbaji, who was standing at the forefront, said in a low voice, I'll deal with them. You protect them. Changbaji's voice was low and powerful, and also had a kind of confidence, which made people feel very safe. Qin Sheng wanted to nod. He believed in Changbaji's strength, but suddenly he felt danger coming from behind again. Qin Sheng turned his head abruptly and saw another man appear at the entrance of the hermitage. The man was also holding a simple and unadorned machete in his hand. Compared to the man whose face could not be seen clearly under the streetlight, this man was grinning at them. This time, Qin Sheng was also nervous. First of all, he felt the danger of these two men, and it was premeditated for a long time. Second, he had too many taboos. His sister, Yaya, and Lin Su were all here. No matter who had an accident, he could not face it. Moreover, Xiaoding could not help at this time, and Qin Sheng had to worry about him. Qin Sheng suddenly thought of the strange feeling he felt when he picked up his sister and Yaya. It should be the existence of danger. He could not help but feel regretful that he was too careless. If he had called for help at that time, there would not be such trouble now. One in the south and one in the north, two exits. The two men met on a narrow road, and there was no way out. They could only fight. This was the only choice. At this time, calling the police or asking for help would not be able to put out a nearby fire. Qin Sheng slowly took a few steps forward. Just like Changbaji stood on the other side, Qin Sheng also stood on the other side. At this moment, only the two of them could protect everyone. Qin Sheng had no time to guess who sent these two men. This was a matter for the future. Moreover, they had so many enemies, and the premise was that they could leave here alive. Danger, very dangerous. This was Qin Sheng's intuition. These two men were definitely not good people, otherwise they would not be sent to deal with them. The mastermind behind the scenes must know his and Chang Baji's strength. It was not the first time that Chang Baji and Qin Sheng faced such a situation. They maintained a tacit understanding and did not take action rashly. Instead, they waited for the two men to take action. A whistle sounded. The two men, one in the north and one in the south, rushed toward the people in the middle at the same time. The simple and unadorned machetes in their hands were already raised, shining with bloodthirsty light. Their eyes were even more disdainful. Chang Baji and Qin Sheng also moved at the same time and rushed toward them. They would definitely not let them threaten the people in the middle. After a few steps, the two strange men walked faster and faster. In the end, they directly rushed toward Chang Baji and Qin Sheng. However, Chang Baji and Qin Sheng stood at the same place at the same time, motionless, ready to fight the enemies. Chapter 517. A desperate battle. The war was about to start. No one had a way out, including Qin Sheng, because his family, the woman he loved deeply, and his brothers were standing behind him. Although he did not know the background and strength of his opponents, Qin Sheng could only win. If he lost, what would happen to the people behind him? Qin Ran held Qin Jing tightly in her arms, because she knew what was going to happen next. She did not want Qin Jing to see this scene. Not now, not in the future. Although they were all descendants of the Qin family, she and Qin Sheng could bear all the pressure, and Qin Jing only needed to enjoy the beauty of this world. If Qin Ran had not experienced a training ground in Beijing, she might have been very worried about Qin Sheng. But after experiencing it and seeing Qin Sheng's strength, Qin Ran believed that Qin Sheng would definitely win. Although Xia Ding felt uneasy in his heart, he was still rational enough. Moreover, he was already prepared. Once something happened to Qin Sheng, he would definitely stand up for him immediately. He would definitely not be a coward. This was what a man had to do. It was said that a bad life was better than a good death. But living an ignoble life and dying a passionate death were two completely different lives. What about Lin Su? She did not run away from everything in front of her. Although she was very worried about Qin Sheng, she believed that Qin Sheng would be fine like Qin Ran. This might be blind faith, but there was no other way but to believe. There were two men, one in the south and one in the north. These two men were naturally the uncle and nephew who had been smoking in the dead end. Chang Baji was facing the uncle, and Qin Sheng was facing the nephew. As for their strength, it was exactly the opposite. The uncle was called Niu Lang, and the nephew was called Niu Er. Their names were very rural. Maybe their parents were not cultured, so they gave them random names. But their strength was definitely not as simple as their names were. This alley was not very long. Both sides were courtyard with high walls, and the front was a dead end. So there were almost no houses, and it was quite a gloomy place. It was really a good place to kill and rob. In the blink of an eye, Niu Lang and Niu Er had already arrived in front of Chang Baji and Qin Sheng. They raised their scimitars full of murderous intent and slashed at their opponents without any hesitation. Chang Baji did not intend to hide his strength. When Niu Lang slashed down with his saber, Chang Baji easily dodged it with a simple step. Niu Lang's lips curled up in disdain, and he followed up with a horizontal slash across his stomach. Chang Baji exerted strength from his feet and rushed up the wall to dodge it again. At the same time, he stepped on the wall and used the momentum to turn around and punch Niu Lang, who was chasing closely behind him. This punch was extremely sharp and was aimed at Niu Lang's face, forcing him to withdraw his saber and retreat. Although the opening was short, the battle between the two sides was unusually fierce. However, no one caused any actual damage to the other. In fact, for the people behind them, this was already a psychological comfort. Over there, Qin Sheng was not as relaxed as Chang Baji. Niu Er's strength was much stronger than Niu Lang's, not to mention that he was so young. This man looked simple and honest. At first glance, Ordinary people could tell that he was a ruffian who had just entered the big city. Whether it was his clothes or his way of talking, he would be despised by the so-called elites in many big cities. However, if a person like Neo was in ancient times, he would be an absolute martial arts addict. Once he fought with him, he would enter his own world and only care about life and death and winning or losing. Therefore, Qin Sheng had a headache at this time. There was no chance to fight back at all. Neo saber technique was different from that of his uncle Niu Lang. Niu Lang liked to make big moves and pay attention to overwhelming the enemy with momentum. Niu was the opposite. He used the scimitar so well that it seemed to be integrated with it. At the beginning, he gave Qin Sheng a greeting gift. After a diagonal slash, he changed his hand to the scimitar and pulled it from Qin Sheng's back. Fortunately, Qin Sheng reacted in time and only cut his clothes. Otherwise, he would have been bleeding. This made Qin Sheng a little annoyed. After he stood firm and wanted to fight back, Neo new round of attacks came one after another. Facing Qin Sheng head-on, Qin Sheng could only dodge tiredly. He had no chance to fight back at all. It was even more impossible to take away Neo scimitar. He was almost injured several times. Qin Sheng knew that he would be injured sooner or later, so he took advantage of a loophole and deliberately showed a flaw. At the risk of being injured, Neo-Air's scimitar cut across the upper edge of his thigh. He suddenly stepped on Neo-Air's arm and jumped up. Then he kicked Neo-Air's back and finally took advantage of him. Neo-Air staggered a few steps forward, which was not a big deal to him. He put the scimitar to his mouth and gently licked the blade with his tongue. This scene was really terrifying. Qin ran and Lin Su behind him were a little panicked when they saw this. Qin Sheng took the opportunity to adjust his breathing and asked at the same time, "My friend, may I ask how we offended you? Even if we die, we should die knowing." Neo did not remain silent, but just replied in a rustic way, "I took the money to eliminate disasters." It was somewhat funny coming out of Neo-Air's mouth, but when Qin Sheng heard this, he said, "Well, since you took the money to eliminate disasters, I'll give you double the price. You go back now and help me kill them." Neo-Air said angrily this time, "You talk too much nonsense." This time, it was his and his uncle's work. Over the years, they had done a lot of things, won and lost, but at least they were still alive. His uncle was old and wanted to go back to his hometown to retire, and he also wanted to get married and have children, so this was their last business. Qin ran and Lin Su's attention was on Qin Sheng. They could not see the specific situation of the battle over there. This was also the reason why Qin Sheng wanted to keep a distance. However, they seemed to feel that Qin Sheng was at a disadvantage, so they started to feel nervous again. Neo-Air clenched the scimitar in his hand again and strode to kill Qin Sheng. This time it was a close attack. The dazzling broadsword skills made Qin Sheng could only defend himself. But compared with the situation at the beginning, it was easier for Qin Sheng to deal with it this time. He more or less understood Neo-Air's routine. Moreover, in close combat, Qin Sheng was really not afraid of anyone. Another knife cut through Qin Sheng's lower ribs and cut Qin Sheng's clothes. Blood flowed out in an instant, but Qin Sheng hit Neo-Air's neck directly with a heavy elbow, knocking Neo-Air out. It could be seen that Qin Sheng was getting braver as the fight went on. "Come on," Qin Sheng sneered, not giving Neo-Air a chance to breathe. "Are you the only one who can use a knife? I can also use a knife. Although I have never used a scimitar like you, the martial arts routines in the world are roughly the same, and the broadsword skills are naturally the same. It is nothing more than paying attention to variety and surprise, plus sometimes the sword is unconventional." Qin Sheng finally took the initiative to attack. While Neo-Air was in a daze, Qin Sheng had already arrived in front of him. Neo-Air hurriedly swung his knife horizontally. Qin Sheng bent down and slid to avoid it, directly behind Neo-Air. Neo-Air's neck was particularly painful because of the blow just now, so it was a little slow to turn around. It seemed that at this moment, Qin Sheng had the upper hand. He punched at the back of Neo-Air's head. This punch would make Neo-Air dizzy even if he didn't fall down. But if Neo-Air only had this kind of strength, he would not come to kill Qin Sheng. He almost intuitively judged that the scimitar would be thrown back from his wrist in a perfect arc. Qin Sheng's fist had already come out, but when he was about to touch the back of Niu Er's head, he suddenly felt that something was wrong. He saw the scimitar spinning as if it had eyes. Qin Sheng had a little idea of taking a risk, but he finally gave up. He thought that once he took a risk, the consequence would be that he would lose his arm. Therefore, Qin Sheng quickly stopped, but even so, the scimitar still hurt him again. His arm was cut by the scimitar, and the blood flowed down and directly dyed Qin Sheng's right hand red. This was not the end. When Qin Sheng stopped, Niu Er, who had no worries or was desperate, had already turned around. Qin Sheng only cared about avoiding Niu Er's scimitar and did not notice Niu Er turning around. After turning around, Niu Er punched Qin Sheng in the abdomen with great force. Then he jumped high and kicked Qin Sheng in the chest. Qin Sheng flew out in an instant, and Niu Er took the opportunity to catch the scimitar. If it weren't for his ugly appearance, Niu Er, who landed perfectly and held the scimitar in his hand, was really handsome. In this round, Niu Er won all the games, and Qin Sheng, who underestimated his opponent, lost all of them. He knelt on the ground for a long time. On the other side, Lin Su and Qin Ren exclaimed at the same time. They naturally saw such an obvious ending. Everyone's heart was in their mouth, including Chang Baji, who was gradually gaining the upper hand with the cowherd. When he heard the exclamation of several women, he knew what had happened. However, Chang Baji did not have the time to save Qin Sheng at all. If he saved Qin Sheng, it would mean that he had completely given up on the gigolo. No one wanted to see a gigolo in Jianghu who had no one to deal with. What should he do? Niu Er walked slowly to Qin Sheng, playing with the scimitar in his hand like an acrobat. The blood on the scimitar was shocking. It seemed that he had already killed Qin Sheng. Qin Sheng was afraid that Chang Baji would come to save him. He was trying to stand up and shouted, "Lao Chang, don't come over." Qin Sheng didn't believe that he would die here. Even if he died, he would fight to the death. As long as he could protect the people he wanted to protect, even if he died, it would be worth it. Lin Su couldn't restrain herself anymore. She couldn't just watch Qin Sheng die in front of her. Therefore, Lin Su, who had lost her mind, was ready to rush in front of Qin Sheng. Even if she died, she would die together with him. However, she was pulled back by Xia Ding, who gritted his teeth and said, "Sister-in-law, don't go there. You will only distract him." Qin Ren held Qin Jing tightly. Of course, Qin Jing already knew what was happening. She began to sob in a low voice, but dared not say anything or ask anything. Qin Ran's eyes were already red. She bit her lower lip so hard that it was bleeding. She said silently in her heart, "Hold on, brother, you must hold on." Just when the two sides were fighting, Qin Ren quietly sent a text message asking for help. She couldn't let Qin Sheng fight to the death here. She couldn't bear such a risk. Lin Su said desperately, "Are we just going to watch like this?" Xia Ding said resolutely, "If someone wants to go, it should be me." After that, Xia Ding handed Lin Su over to Qin Sheng. Although he was usually cynical and playboy, when it came to real right and wrong, Xia Ding would definitely be very clear. He and Qin Sheng had known each other for so many years, and their feelings were naturally self-evident. So many things had happened in college, and every time they advanced and retreated together. Now he would still do the same. As long as he could delay for a second, even if he died here, he would not regret it. Niu Er came as scheduled and raised his machete again. He had already begun to imagine the life of his wife and children when he returned to his hometown. Qin Sheng climbed to his feet with difficulty and stood there like the yellow mountain unaging pine tree. He let the blood stain his clothes and drip on the ground. It was just a life-and-death battle. It was not the first or second time. Moreover, he had won by luck before. This time, he believed that he could win again. But at this time, a man's stiff voice suddenly sounded in the dark alley. "It's so late. It's rude to disturb others' sleep." Niu Er suddenly turned around and saw an unexpected man standing behind him. Niu Er narrowed his eyes and was very unhappy with the sudden appearance of this uninvited guest. Chapter 518. A kitchen knife and a machete in Beijing. Zhao Anji, who had just left Mr. Zhao's house, did not know what had happened in Shanghai. If she knew it now, she would be furious. She had stayed in Canada for more than 20 years, just to protect Yaya from threats in Shanghai. Now, as soon as she came back, someone took the risk out of desperation, which was challenging her bottom line. In the western suburbs, Qin Chang'an was ready to go back to the Sihyuan of the Qin family after meeting the old friend who was very difficult to meet. On the contrary, Qin Chang'an felt that he had gained a lot tonight. Since there was no way back, he could be unscrupulous and did not need to think about those useless things anymore. This place was relatively remote, and there were not many cars in the evening. On the way back, Qin Chang'an closed his eyes to rest, thinking about the next layout and dismantling. The public opinion had been controlled. After all, no one was willing to expose too many things to the public. However, the real confrontation was still behind the scenes, and it was just the beginning. Every time Qin Chang'an went out, there were 2 cars. He sat in the front one, and several bodyguards sat in the back one. The 2 cars were almost the same except for the license plate, which could also prevent unknown dangers. When they just passed the T-junction, no one noticed that 2 Jeep Wranglers suddenly rushed out from the right crossing, running the red light, and went straight to Qin Chang'an's motorcade. The Wrangler in the front accelerated and crashed into the Mercedes-Benz behind. With a bang, the trunk of the Mercedes-Benz was directly smashed, which looked terrible. The bodyguard and the car were also in a daze, and the airbag almost popped. Fortunately, the driving bodyguard noticed the Wrangler suddenly rushing over from the rearview mirror, so he was prepared and did not lose control of the car. After all, he was an experienced driver, but he did not expect to encounter such a crisis here. At this time, the other Wrangler directly accelerated and overtook the Mercedes-Benz behind, rushing to the Mercedes-Benz where Qin Chang'an was. The driving bodyguard had followed Qin Chang'an for several years. He was a serious soldier and had dealt with many crises. Qin Chang'an had always wanted to promote him, but he said that he only knew how to drive. Since there were no cars in the first place, the driver, who was a soldier, had already noticed that 2 cars suddenly rushed out from the back. Moreover, the 2 cars collided so loudly, who could not hear it? Apart from a soldier king who was driving the Mercedes-Benz in the front, there were only Gong Sun, who was in the co-pilot seat, and Qin Chang'an, who was in the back seat. Qin Chang'an opened his eyes slightly after hearing the loud noise behind him. At this time, the soldier king who was driving shouted in a deep voice, "Master Qin, be careful. We are in danger." After saying that, he stepped on the accelerator and rushed forward. Gong Sun frowned and immediately looked back. The modified Wrangler was like a runaway wild horse. If the driver didn't react fast enough, he would have crashed into them. The consequences would be unimaginable. Just like that, the 2 cars began a death chase on the highway, just like in a Western American movie. One had to know that this was the capital, and they were really unscrupulous. It could be seen that the opponent tonight had a similarly powerful background. Qin Chang'an muttered to himself, "They really don't leave us a way out." He had just left that place and encountered such a situation. It was very ironic. Qin Chang'an did not bother to guess who was the main character behind the scene tonight. It was nothing more than internal and external troubles. The internal troubles were the major shareholders who wanted to make him out of the game. He guessed that letting his sister-in-law and Sheng enter the board of directors had angered those people. Moreover, Sheng had gotten enough shares, and he acted first and reported later. That was why they were so angry. At the thought of Sheng, Qin Chang'an's face changed slightly. Since these people dared to attack him in Beijing, what about Sheng who was far away in Shanghai? Qin Chang'an immediately came to himself and said, "Gong Sun, call Sheng." At this time, Gong Sun was about to call for support. He was afraid that others had backup plans. He could not let his master be in danger. However, he did not expect that Qin Chang'an would ask him to call Qin Sheng at this time. Gong Sun did not hesitate and immediately dialed Qin Sheng's number. At that time, Qin Sheng was fighting with Neo Air in Shanghai, of course. He had no time to answer the phone. Gong Sun called several times in a row, but no one answered. His face became more and more gloomy. Could it be that Qin Sheng was also in danger? Master, no one answered. Gong Sun replied helplessly, I'll try again later. Qin Chang'an did not say anything, nor did he ask Gong Sun to call Qin Ran again. Even if Qin Ran's phone call got through, he would not be able to do anything. If there was no danger, they would be nervous. At this time, Gong Sun could not care about anything else. He immediately called for help. The Jeep Wrangler was chasing closely. The driver drove the Mercedes-Benz all the way. Fortunately, it was a Mercedes-Benz. If it was an ordinary car, it might have been caught up with long ago. The consequences would be unimaginable. The Mercedes-Benz, which had been smashed into a mess, saw that the Mercedes-Benz in front of it was in trouble. They did not care about anything else and stepped on the gas pedal to catch up with it. At this time, they would stop the Wrangler in front of them even if their cars were destroyed. They would never let it threaten the big boss. As a result, the two cars became 4 cars. The scene was extremely explosive. Those who did not know would have thought that they were shooting a movie. In the alley of Shanghai, the man who appeared out of nowhere broke the deadlock and gave Qin Sheng a chance to breathe. No one noticed where the man came from. Of course, they could not see clearly who he was at the moment. However, the voice sounded familiar. If they could see the double Liren chef's knife in the man's hand, they would be able to confirm his identity. He was none other than the owner of the hermit house, Sister Lu's husband, Brother Lu. He was a very low-key and polite man. Except for the beginning and the last time he showed up to greet and send off the guests, he spent most of the time in the kitchen. Cooking was his specialty, but his real specialty was killing people. In front of the window on the 2nd floor of the hermit house, Sister Lu lit a cigarette. She squinted her eyes and stared at the alley outside. She did not turn on the light. If Lin Su was not her friend, she would not care about the life and death of these people. What did it have to do with her? But who asked Lin Su to be her friend? At this moment, Sister Lu was completely different from how she was in front of others. She looked a little cold. She knew all about her husband's past, so she did not want her husband to take risks. Moreover, after witnessing the battle outside, they also knew that the opponents Qin Sheng and his men met were not simple. At the same time, they were sure that these people were noble. It was not easy to get Lin Su to be his girlfriend. She had guessed it from the way they talked and behaved during dinner. Just now, her husband asked her, "Are you going to help?" Sister Lu did not pressure her husband. She knew that her husband had been away from those trivial things for many years. If he had not noticed that the enemy was chasing after him, maybe they would still be active in the Shanghai food circle and be the god of cooking couple that everyone envied. If he chose to help, he would not have a hermit house after tonight. If he did not help, his conscience would more or less be uneasy. So Sister Lu said softly, "Don't care about my feelings. If you want to help, just do it. If not, it's okay." Brother Lu let out a long sigh and said, "After all, he is your friend, and he is at the door of our hermit house. If I don't help, I can't say no. We can just move to another city after this. It's up to you." Sister Lu smiled. So Brother Lu took out the Shuang Liren chef's knife from the kitchen, which was used for cooking and killing. This was the chef's knife that Shuang Liren had specially made for him. It had his English name and the logo of Shuang Liren on it. He had been using it for many years. In the alley, Brother Lu held the chef's knife between his left thumb and index finger and walked slowly toward Newer. Strictly speaking, Brother Lu was of mixed blood. He had Chinese, English, and French descent. So he had a broad forehead, a high-nosed bridge, deep eyes, and stubble, which made him very manly. Of course, the scars on his body were even more attractive, but others could not see them. Just now, Lin Su, Qin Ran, and Qin Jing all secretly looked at him many times. Even Qin Sheng was envious of Brother Lu's appearance and temperament. No wonder he could conquer Sister Lu. Neoer was ready for battle. Just as Qin Sheng could sense his danger, Neoer also felt the danger of this man in front of him. He was extremely dangerous, so he didn't dare to be careless at all. He changed the machete in his hand into a more simple and unadorned one, staring at Brother Lu, who was coming toward him. "You also know how to play with knives?" Neoer asked stiffly. His accent was very heavy, like the accent of the two lakes. He and his uncle's knife skills were the same, But his uncle had not learned the true meaning of knife skills. Brother Lu said calmly, "If cooking can be counted as playing with knives, I should have been playing with knives for 30 years. In short, Brother Lu told Qin Sheng and the others his identity, so that they would not think of him as an enemy. This could also reduce the pressure on them. Brother Lu? Qin Sheng was shocked. He had been wondering why this voice was so familiar. It turned out that it was Brother Lu, Sister Lu's husband. It was a little unbelievable. Xia Ding and the others, who were not far away, also heard Brother Lu's words. Xia Ding murmured, "Oh my God, is it really Brother Lu? Is he some hidden master?" Qin Ran and Lin Su were also very shocked. They did not expect it to be Brother Lu. At this moment, their thoughts were similar to Qin Sheng and Xia Ding's. They did not expect Brother Lu, who only knew how to cook, to be a hidden master. They did not doubt Brother Lu's strength at all. If he was not strong, he would naturally not get involved in such a situation. Otherwise, it would be equivalent to courting death. Neo Air was full of vigor after the hearty battle just now. He was determined to eat tonight's prey. This was his last business, and he would never let the prey fly away just like that. No one could stop him. Whoever dared to stop him, he would kill that person, regardless of whether he was a real chef or a fake chef. Well, let me see which is better, your kitchen knife or my machete. Niuer sneered. Then he raised his machete again and rushed to this new opponent. He did not like to be so long-winded. He only enjoyed the process of killing and the pleasure of killing his opponent. Brother Lu was the same. Simply put, if you could fight, don't talk. Those who talked were not capable. They were not dating, so there was no need to talk so much nonsense. The two of them fought in an instant. One machete, the other kitchen knife. The moment the two knives collided, there were brilliant sparks. Qin Sheng finally let out a long sigh of relief. If it were not for Brother Lu's introduction at the beginning, he would not be able to leave tonight. Lin Su had already come back to her senses. She did not care about Niuer and Brother Lu, who were already fighting. She broke free from Xia Ding and ran to Qin Sheng without hesitation. This time, Xia Ding did not stop her. When she walked closer, she found that Qin Sheng was covered in blood. It showed how dangerous the fight just now was. Lin Su, who had always been strong, suddenly burst into tears and said with red eyes, "Honey, how are you?" Of course, Qin Sheng did not feel good at this time. No one would feel good after being beaten and bleeding all over. But he did not want to make Lin Su worry, so he said with a smile, "Just some minor injuries. It's not the first time. It's okay." At the other end of the alley, Chang Baji and Niu Lang were fighting. Chang Baji finally gained the upper hand. Although he was injured by Niu Lang's scimitar, it was not a big deal. Niu Lang was still making a final struggle, but the scimitar in his hand had already disappeared. Originally, he thought that this vote was in the bag. He only needed to delay Chang Baji. Anyway, he certainly couldn't kill Chang Baji, and Chang Baji couldn't kill him in a short time. As long as Niu Air succeeded, it would be enough. After all, those people were the real masters. However, when a strange man suddenly appeared and made trouble, Niuer felt that he was in danger. Maybe he would die here. After all, this was Shanghai, and they had a time limit. They could not be unscrupulous. Chapter 519. Brother Lu's appearance didn't affect Chang Baji. Chang Baji's mind was very strong. He knew what he should do in any situation. Although he was very worried about Qin Sheng's situation, he could not save Qin Sheng now. The first thing he had to do was to kill the opponent in front of him. Secondly, he had to protect Qin Ran, Lin Su, and the others. Finally, he had to save Qin Sheng. Therefore, Brother Lu's appearance didn't distract Chang Baji. He didn't know who the strange man was, but he was sure that this man was a friend, not an enemy. That was enough. Without any worries, he could go all out to kill the opponent in front of him. On the contrary, Niu Lang was different. He was very surprised by Brother Lu's appearance, not to mention that he was an enemy, not a friend. Niu Air had already succeeded, but now someone suddenly appeared out of nowhere. Niu Lang was naturally unhappy. As soon as he was distracted, Chang Baji found an opportunity. While he was not paying attention, Chong Baji hit his wrist with a side spin kick, and the scimitar flew out in an instant. Niu Lang with a scimitar was completely different from the one without one. They were the masters of knives, and with a knife, they were the real masters. Without a knife, their strength would naturally be greatly reduced, not to mention the existence of someone like Chong Baji. Finally, Chong Baji didn't have to be suppressed anymore. He gradually controlled the rhythm of the fight. Niu Lang began to change from offense to defense, but he didn't give up. He had to hold on and give Niu Air enough time. If Niu Air could kill the strange man, and then Qin Sheng and the others, it would be worth it even if he was half dead. Anyway, this was their last chance. However, if Niu Air couldn't win, or if Niu Air directly lost, then they had to retreat. They couldn't stay here for money. It was really not worth it. Moreover, the money they had saved over the years was enough for Niu Air to get a few wives. The more Niu Lang thought, the more distracted he was, and the more opportunities Chong Baji had. After Chong Baji fought off Niu Lang's continuous punches, he used his shoulder to block Niu Lang's body. At the same time, he stepped sideways to Niu Lang's back, directly grabbed Niu Lang's shoulders, and directly threw Niu Lang out and heavily hit the wall. By the time Niu Lang came to his senses, it was already too late. He was thrown out and fell to the ground in embarrassment. He spat out the blood in his throat and sneered. Chong Baji is really powerful. It is said that his master is Mr. Lee, the Grand Master of 8 Extremes Boxing. I finally got to see it tonight. The other party had come prepared. This was Chong Baji's subconscious thought. Otherwise, how could the other party know about his master's background? It should be known that other than his senior and junior brothers, the other juniors did not know. It was a pity that Chong Baji did not know which sect Niu Lang and the others had learned their saber skills from. In today's society, most people could only see martial arts in movies and TV dramas. They thought it was just movies and TV dramas. What they really understood were all kinds of unfashionable performances. They felt that those were the so-called China Kung Fu, which was really a joke. The underworld society was still around, and so was the martial arts. It was just that it was relatively low-key in this modern society. Most of them had hidden themselves, and many of them had been incorporated. Moreover, there were billions of people in the world, and the probability of an ordinary person meeting a martial arts practitioner was very small. Chong Baji was not in a hurry to fight. He asked curiously, "Since you already know me, you should at least let me know about you. Which master did you learn your scimitar from?" Niu Lang showed his big yellow teeth and laughed. "Unfortunately, the master who taught us has passed away for many years. Even if you know him, what can you do? You can't take revenge on him, can you?" Chong Baji suddenly felt a little disappointed. He sighed and said, "Then continue. If you dare to come, I will have to keep you here." Hee hee. Niu Lang laughed disdainfully. Chong Baji was not angry. Although he knew that this man was deliberately stalling for time, he really wanted to know who the master of this saber skill was. If there was a chance, he would definitely ask the master for advice. But now it was useless to say anything. Niu Lang was already an arrow at the end of its flight. Chong Baji was ready to take him down in one go, so he strode towards Niu Lang. Compared with Chong Baji and Niu Lang, the battle between Niu Air and Brother Lu had just begun. A scimitar and a kitchen knife were echoing each other under the moonlight and street lights. The sound of the two knives colliding resounded through the alley. It was very cold. Every time a knife collided, it would hit people's hearts. If anyone was a little careless, he might be killed by the knife. This was no longer a battle of winning or losing, but a battle of life and death. No one had time to guess what Brother Lu used to do, except for his identity as a chef. They just hoped that Brother Lu could kill Niu Air so that they could be completely safe. As for Niu Air's machete skills, Brother Lu had already witnessed it from upstairs, so he knew it very well. Although it looked very powerful, it had a lot of drawbacks, so it was nothing in front of him. He could definitely kill Niu Air with his kitchen knife. After the two fought, Brother Lu was not in a hurry to attack. He had been defending according to Niu Air's rhythm. Shuang Liren's kitchen knife was like a magic weapon in his hand. Niu Air's scimitar could not break through his defense at all. Every time Niu Air's blade pointed, Shuang Liren's kitchen knife was already waiting there. Then, only the sound of collision and brilliant sparks could be heard. The more Niuer fought, the more exasperated he became. He knew very well that their time was limited. If they went on like this, they would have to leave. But this was their last big job. After this, they could go home to marry a wife and have children. He didn't want to give up so easily. Therefore, Niuer began to put all his eggs in one basket. He suddenly put away the scimitar and continuously attacked Brother Lu's lower body with his legs. At the same time, he dodged Brother Lu's kitchen knife. Just when Brother Lu was in control of the rhythm, Niuer suddenly took out the scimitar and pulled it towards Brother Lu's chest. Brother Lu was about to be cut open, but Shuang Liren's kitchen knife blocked Niuer's way again. Niuer was about to go crazy with anger. Brother Lu had been traveling all over the world for so many years and had experienced so many tricks like this. As a knife user, the most important thing was to use a knife. Why did Niuer learn to fight in close combat instead of using a knife? Brother Lu didn't let his guard down. As he had guessed, Niuer really had a backup plan. After the scimitar was blocked by Brother Lu again, the angle was just right, and Brother Lu's strength was just right. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Shuang Liren's kitchen knife directly followed the curve of the scimitar's blade all the way to Niuer's left hand. A series of sparks appeared. Everything was done in an instant. Niuer turned pale with fright and hurriedly let go of his left hand to catch the knife with his right hand to block Brother Lu's attack. But Brother Lu suddenly sped up again. What he did just now was just to avoid being seen. Before Niuer could catch the scimitar, Shuang Liren's kitchen knife had already reached Niuer's lower rib. Then, with a horizontal cut, Niuer's lower rib was cut, and blood instantly stained Niuer's clothes. Niuer hurriedly took a few steps back and bent down to cover the wound in his lower rib with his hand. Brother Lu's knife was too powerful. Fortunately, it was just an ordinary kitchen knife. If it was a military dagger with a blood groove, it would have been a fatal wound. "Who the hell are you?" Niuer asked angrily. The kitchen knife in Brother Lu's hand was already stained with blood. He gently wiped the blood on it with his clothes and pointed to the group not far away, saying they're friends. "You tried to kill my friends in front of my house. I can't stand it." Brother Lu snorted. Although he was still talking, he did not intend to give Niuer a chance to breathe. This was not a teaching lesson, but a life and death battle. Giving the enemy a chance would only speed up the time of his own death. Brother Lu had made this mistake before. Brother Lu pressed forward and was already in front of Niuer. Niuer still did not want to give up. He did not believe that this man could be so powerful. He must have been careless just now. So Niuer picked up the scimitar and faced Brother Lu again. On the other side, Changbaji once again knocked Niuer over. Although Niuer had been using the trick of stalling and had been relying on cunning movements to buy time, he was still caught by Changbaji again and again. At this time, he had already suffered a lot. But no matter how he tried, Niuer still did not finish off the strange man. Niuer realized that the time they had set was up, and it should be over. They could not stay here any longer, or the consequences would be unimaginable. So he took a few steps back and shouted, "Niuer, retreat." Niuer had heard his uncle shout, but he did not want to retreat just like that. Otherwise, tonight's effort would be in vain. So Niuer braced himself and hacked at Brother Lu several times. Because the wound on his lower ribs was still bleeding, Niuer's footsteps were a little messy, and the strength of his knife was not as strong as before. Therefore, at this moment, Brother Lu was as steady as a mountain. It would not take long for the battle to end, and he would still be the winner. Finding the right time to hit the target was Brother Lu's favorite trick. Therefore, after seeing Niuer's flaw again, Brother Lu's neck brushed past the blade of Niuer's knife. There should be a little blood, but there was no substantial damage. However, Brother Lu's main chef's knife had directly pierced into Niuer's shoulder. The sudden heavy blow made Niuer roar. Instead of retreating in a hurry, as Brother Lu had expected, he crazily took the knife that had already pierced into his shoulder and used all his strength to pull back the arc of the scimitar. Then he slashed at Brother Lu's chest diagonally. Brother Lu did not expect this. At this time, he had no choice but to hit Niuer's chest with his shoulder. At the same time, he pulled out the Shuang Liren main chef's knife in his hand and made the choice to minimize the damage. He let Neo Air's scimitar cut his left arm so that he could avoid Neo Air's desperate attack. Neo Air flew backward, and his shoulder was directly pierced by Brother Lu's main chef's knife. This was the result of hurting himself while hurting his enemy. This time, blood directly gushed out, staining the ground and even sprayed on Brother Lu's clothes. The scene was so bloody that Qin ran, Lin Su, and the others behind them were so scared that their faces turned pale. Neo could not hold on anymore. Once again, he took a kick from Chang Baji, but Neo still had no intention of retreating. Neo shouted, "Neo, you F***king retreat." Unfortunately, at this time, Neo had no chance to retreat even if he wanted to. Would Brother Lu let him go after such a serious injury? Chapter 520. Almost Neo Lang and Neo came from the mountains of Zhangjiajie at the junction of the two lakes. They were born and raised in the mountains. Most of the year, they worked outside and only went back when the farm was busy or there was something in the village. Their village was not very big, and they relied on the help of the villagers for funerals and weddings. So except for those small things, as long as there was a big funeral, no matter where you worked, you had to come back in advance. There was once a villager who was very good outside and looked down on the villagers in the mountains. He would not come back even if there was a big event in the village, not to mention a gift and so on. But his parents were still in the village, so when his father died, no villager was willing to help. Even if he begged people with a lot of money, no one answered. It was the old village chief who said a lot of things to him, and then he understood. So he went from house to apologize and beg for mercy, and finally let his father be buried smoothly. From then on, no matter what happened in the village, the villager who was a boss in the city would come back as soon as possible, and he would be busy without any complaints. When his mother died, nothing happened again. But from then on, the big boss never came back. This story became a lot of people's talk, but it was not clear who was right and who was wrong in it. As for the scimitar that Neo Lang and Neo said, they learned from an elderly elder in the village. The elder had been wandering outside since he was a child. No one knew what he had experienced outside, and then he came back to the village with a limp at the age of 60. Few of his parents and relatives were left. In the beginning, he didn't say anything. Every day, he would just smoke tobacco, drink tea, walk the dog, and bask in the sun. After almost 2 years, perhaps one day, this elder felt that he was unwilling to leave all his skills in the dust. So he told the villagers that he would teach the children kung fu. The villagers were skeptical, so the elder showed a set of scimitar skills and shocked the villagers. Then the villagers sent the children to learn kung fu, most of them with the purpose of strengthening their bodies. However, the elder was very strict in selecting apprentices. Only 1 or 2 out of 10 children of the same age in the whole village could be selected. Some parents later didn't let them learn from the elder because they always thought he was strange. Neo Lang and Neo were the chosen children, and they were also the only children who could persist until the end. The elder lived to the age of 90, and he died without illness or pain. It was Neo Lang and Neo who asked the villagers to bury him. Later, Neo and Neo Lang went out to work, and then a series of things happened, so they embarked on this road. These were all later, but now it seemed that Neo life was coming to an end. He was not as good as others and finally lost to a chef, which was a fact that Neo couldn't accept. After all, he could go back to his hometown after finishing this job. Now, all his previous efforts were in vain. Neo stood up with difficulty, still holding the scimitar tightly. His master had said that even at the last moment, don't put down the scimitar in your hand because only by holding the scimitar tightly could you have a chance to live. Obviously, Neo believed in this more than Neo Lang. Although he stood up, Neo was no longer Brother Lu's opponent. With Brother Lu's strength, he could easily kill Neo at this moment. Brother Lu held the main kitchen knife that had been with him for many years. The blade was vertical, and the tip of the knife was pointing to the ground. The blood on the blade was dripping on the ground silently. Neo Air, who was covered in blood, was ready for the last struggle. If he didn't admit defeat, he would die in the battle. Brother Lu was also ready for the last attack. Over the years, many souls had died under his knife, and Neo Air was not a big deal. Moreover, he didn't want to know Neo Air's story. But at the last moment, Brother Lu suddenly stopped and turned to the direction of the hermit house. He didn't know when Sister Lu, who had been standing in front of the window on the second floor, was standing in the yard of the hermit house. At this moment, she looked at Brother Lu with a complicated expression, as if she was telling him something. Brother Lu suddenly came to his senses, and he was covered in cold sweat. He was so close to returning to his past self, and the consequences would be unimaginable. Brother Lu nodded to Sister Lu silently, then turned back to Neo Air and sighed. "You can go." Neo Air, who was ready to die, was stunned. But he didn't think too much about it, and rushed past Brother Lu without hesitation. He didn't doubt whether the man in front of him was deliberately mystifying, because there was no need to. As long as Brother Lu wanted to kill him, he would die here tonight. On the other side, Neo Lang, who was fighting desperately with Chong Baji, had almost finished cursing Neo Air's ancestors. He didn't know that he was also cursing Chong Baji's ancestors. Seeing that the big fool finally came to his senses and ran away, Neo Lang stopped fighting with Chong Baji. Otherwise, he might die before Neo Air died. Therefore, Neo Lang smiled at Chong Baji, turned around, and ran away. He was fighting with his life, and he was also fighting with his life when he ran away. Of course, if he didn't run away, he would die. Chong Baji hesitated again and again, but in the end, he didn't chase after Neo Lang. If he wanted to chase after Neo Lang, he was sure that he could defeat this man. But these were not the most important things. The most important thing was to protect the safety of Qin Sheng and the others, so Chong Baji didn't chase after Neo Lang. They came in a hurry and left in a hurry. The busy and dangerous alley returned to silence in the next second, as if nothing had happened. Chong Baji quickly returned to the others. At this time, Qin Ran let go of Qin Jing and asked Xiaoding to take care of Qin Jing. She hurriedly ran to Qin Sheng and Lin Su. At this moment, she was most worried about Qin Sheng. Nothing was more important than him. Qin Ran hugged Qin Sheng and asked anxiously, "How are you? Where are you hurt? Is it serious?" Of course, Qin Sheng was very energetic and said, "Sister, don't worry. I'm fine. It's just a small injury." Qin Ran didn't know what to say. Everything happened too suddenly. No matter how dangerous the process was, the result was optimistic. At this time, Sister Lu had already walked in front of Brother Lu. She slowly reached out and took away the chef's knife in Brother Lu's hand. She sighed and said, "It's been hard on you tonight." Brother Lu also knew what had almost happened just now. This woman had spent a few years to make him forget about that nightmare. Just now, he almost went back to the past. Thinking of this, he felt a little scared. If that had happened, it would not have been worth it to make a move tonight. Brother Lu smiled bitterly and said, "Fortunately, I have you." Sister Lu smiled faintly. Perhaps this was the value of her existence. As long as she was around, this man would be able to restrain himself. Otherwise, Lin Su and the rest would be hurt, and that would be a huge loss. After comforting each other for a while, they walked to Sister Lu and Brother Lu unhurriedly. Qin Sheng took the initiative to say, "Sister Lu, Brother Lu, thank you. I will remember this favor." Qin Ran also said sincerely, "Thank you, Brother Lu. If you didn't save us, I really don't know what would have happened to us. Too many words of thanks are not enough to express my feelings at this moment." Sister Lu shook her head faintly and said, "Let's not talk about this now. Let's go in first. They should all be hurt. Don't get infected." Everyone nodded silently. Then, they followed Brother Lu and Sister Lu back into the house. Before the Qin family's bodyguard arrived, they did not dare to leave this place easily. Inside the house, a few women were chatting outside. Chong Baji, Qin Sheng, and Brother Lu were inside dressing their wounds. The house had everything that should be needed, so it was better to be prepared. Chong Baji and Brother Lu's wounds were minor. They only needed to use alcohol to clean their wounds and bandage them. Qin Sheng's wounds were more serious, so he needed to disinfect, apply medicine, and suture. However, there were no doctors here, so this task was given to Brother Lu, who had long been used to being injured. His skills were really not bad, not inferior to his cooking skills. At this moment, Brother Lu, who was wearing a cold expression, said casually, "I used to study medicine in the UK and even worked in a hospital for a few years. So you can rest assured about my skills." Even if he did not study medicine, he had already become a master just by dressing his own wounds. Qin Sheng said in a low voice, "I can see that you are more professional than many ordinary doctors. Aren't you going to ask something?" Brother Lu was very curious. He was not afraid of Chang Baji, who was beside him. From the moment Chang Baji walked into the house, he knew that Chang Baji was a real master. After all, he had fought with many masters over the years, so he still had this kind of observation and judgment. Qin Sheng was not a nosy person. When he first saw Brother Lu, he felt that something was not right. Later, he thought that Brother Lu was a master chef, so he was naturally different from most people. Now that he thought about it, it was more than that. Everyone has a past, everyone has a story, and everyone has choices. These things belong to everyone. There is no need for everyone to know, Qin Sheng said honestly. Wasn't it the same for him and Chang Baji? Brother Lu did not continue this topic. He changed the topic and said, "Then aren't you going to ask me why I let that man go?" Qin Sheng smiled bitterly and said, "I am not qualified to ask. He was defeated by you, Brother Lu. You are free to do whatever you want with him." "You are very interesting," Brother Lu said to Qin Sheng. He no longer looked at Qin Sheng in the same way as before. Instead, he treated Qin Sheng as a kindred spirit. After all, he had witnessed the fight between Qin Sheng and Yo Er, and he knew that Qin Sheng was not a simple man. It was just that Qin Sheng was too distracted and careless, so he lost. Qin Sheng said thoughtfully, "A few months ago I was not like this. I should be living a life similar to Brother Lu's, wandering from place to place, avoiding all kinds of enemies. I have experienced too many things, so I understand Brother Lu's choice." Brother Lu continued to bandage Qin Sheng's wound and said, "I didn't kill him, not because I didn't dare to. I have killed a lot of people over the years. There are so-called good people and so-called bad people. One more is not a big deal. If I killed him, I would just have to leave Shanghai and choose another place. But I don't want to go back to my previous life. That kind of life is too painful. I think my current life is very good. I have wine, meat, and women. After all, now I not only have to be responsible for myself, but also for the woman I love." Qin Sheng subconsciously guessed, "Brother Lu, do you have inner demons?" Heart demon. It seemed like a very mysterious word, but many people might have heart demons. Brother Lu's inner demon was killing, of course not killing chickens or fish. After all, he had been a cook for so many years and was used to it. Once he broke the rule of killing, his inner demon would be triggered. Inner demons were more terrible than anything else. They could control a person and then torture him in all kinds of ways. Yes, Brother Lu nodded slightly and said, "Almost." Qin Sheng finally understood why Brother Lu looked back at Sister Lu at the last moment. Maybe the only way to control the inner demon was Sister Lu. Brother Lu did not say too much. Since Qin Sheng had asked this question, of course he knew what was going on. Chapter 521. Chapter 522. Introduction start, fighting back of course. Qin Sheng could guess what Brother Lu meant. Obviously, Brother Lu's identity as an ordinary person had been exposed tonight, so he definitely couldn't stay in the hermitage anymore. Not to mention that his enemies might get the news and come after him. Those people might come back for revenge tonight. After all, Brother Lu had ruined their plan, so the safest way was to close the hermitage and leave Shanghai. Qin Sheng felt guilty and said, "Brother Lu, I'm sorry to have caused you trouble." Brother Lu wiped the blood on his hands with a towel and smiled. "You're too polite. It was my choice whether to save you or not. When I made the choice, I knew what the consequences would be, so it has nothing to do with you." Even so, how could it have nothing to do with him? If they hadn't come here tonight, those people wouldn't have tried to kill them here. Qin Sheng felt a little guilty. He thought for a while and said, "Brother Lu, if you want, I can recommend a good place. I grew up there. The environment and everything else is good. Brother Lu, you can think about it." "Where?" Brother Lu didn't take it seriously and just responded politely. Qin Sheng said in a low voice, "She in Zhongnan Mountains." Zhongnan Mountains was the most blessed place in the world. Qin Sheng was more familiar with it than anyone else, so he recommended it to Brother Lu. It might be helpful in curing Brother Lu's inner demons. Moreover, Qin Sheng had a lot of connections in Xian'an. If anything happened, he could take care of Brother Lu and Sister Lu. Brother Lu was a little surprised. He had heard of this place, but he still had to discuss it with Sister Lu. He smiled and said, "Let me think about it." Outside, Xiaoding was watching TV with Qin Jing. He tried to divert her attention so that she wouldn't think too much. Qin Ran, Lin Su, and Sister Lu were talking in a low voice in the dining room. "Su, who are those people tonight? Why do they want to kill you?" Since their identities have been exposed, Sister Lu didn't want to hide anymore. Lin Su didn't know, so she looked at Qin Ran. Maybe Qin Ran knew more. Otherwise, why would something like this happen when they just came back to Shanghai? Qin Ran sighed and said, "Maybe they are enemies of our Qin family. Recently, our family has not been peaceful. I guess some people can't sit still, so they hit us when we were down and loot us when we were down." During dinner, Sister Lu had already guessed that these people's identities were not simple. From the topics of their conversations and other details, it could be seen that their family background was probably even more powerful than Lin Su's. Sister Lu was more or less worried that Lin Su would inexplicably fall into danger after entering such a family. "Yes, those people tonight are not easy to deal with. You have to be careful in the future," Sister Lu reminded them kindly. Qin Ran narrowed her eyes and said viciously, "Our Qin family is not to be trifled with. Since someone has broken the rules, don't blame our Qin family for acting recklessly. As long as we find out who it is, our counterattack will definitely not disappoint them." What happened tonight really challenged Qin Ran's bottom line. No matter which one of them had an accident, the consequences would be unimaginable, so Qin Ran was really angry. This was the first time that Lin Su had seen Qin Ran like this. She was totally different from her usual amiable and approachable self. It seemed that this Qin Ran was the daughter of a rich and powerful family. Just as they were chatting, many bodyguards of the Qin family finally arrived. 6 black Mercedes-Benz were parked at the entrance of the alley. More than 20 bodyguards of the Qin family completely blocked the passage from the alley entrance to the secret house. The 2 people in charge of the Qin family in Shanghai were leading them. One of them led several bodyguards to check whether there was any danger in the surroundings, while the other led other bodyguards to protect the entire secret house. When she saw that old acquaintance coming in with bodyguards, Qin Ran finally felt relieved. She then slowly stood up and walked over, telling the old acquaintance about what had happened. After hearing the story, the man's face became very serious, especially when he knew that Qin Sheng was injured. He immediately asked someone to contact a good private hospital so that Qin Sheng could be sent there for treatment at any time. However, Qin Ran first asked them to clean up the bloodstains outside. Qin Ran did not call the police. She did not want to make things worse, because if she did, her uncle would definitely be alerted. Once her uncle knew about it, the whole Zhu family would probably know about it, which would be very shocking. Moreover, it was too late to call the police at that time. Those people had already planned everything. Such a scene in the Qin family shocked Sister Lu very much. What kind of family could have such a grand scene? Even Xiaoding, who was used to seeing the world, was very surprised. He could not help but sigh that big families were indeed different. Sister Lu rarely gossiped about many things, but what happened tonight forced her to be curious. So she whispered in Lin Su's ear, "Su, what on earth does the Qin family do?" This question made Lin Su a little embarrassed. She did not know how to answer it. After thinking for a while, she said, "Capital operation and financial holding." Lin Su did not reveal the specific information. This would save her a lot of trouble. There were still a lot of things that needed to be dealt with, and it would not end like this. Too many things would be involved. At this time, Qin Sheng, Chong Baji, and Brother Lu who heard the noise outside, also came out. Qin Sheng's face changed slightly when he saw so many bodyguards. After saying hello to Sister Lu and the others, he walked quickly to his sister. Brother Lu was also a little surprised by the situation outside. It seemed that the noise was a little big. When Qin Sheng walked over, the man with the crew cut immediately bowed his head respectfully. Qin Sheng did not know his identity, so he just nodded politely. After that, he looked at Qin Ran and asked, "Sister, who are they?" "They are all from the Qin family," Qin Ran said honestly. But at this time, she looked a little gloomy, because she had just heard from this man that the situation in Beijing was more serious and complicated than she had thought. Qin Sheng did not say much. These people should be arranged by his sister to ensure their safety in case of any accidents. After all, he and Lao Chong were injured. Qin Ran patted Qin Sheng's shoulder gently and said meaningfully, "Qin Sheng, it's time for us to go." Qin Sheng read something from his sister's eyes. He squinted and nodded. After that, they went back to the living room. Qin Sheng took the initiative to say, "Brother Lu, Sister Lu, sorry for troubling you tonight. It's getting late, so we'll leave now. You should rest early." Sister Lu and Brother Lu did not ask them to stay. They just said, "Be careful on the way back." Of course, Qin Sheng understood what they meant. Qin Ran hesitated for a while and finally took out her business card and handed it to Brother Lu. She said, "Sister Lu, Brother Lu, if you need any help in the future, you can call me at any time. I'll try my best to help you as much as I can." A drop of water should be returned with a spring of water. This was the basic principle of the Qin family. Brother Lu helped them tonight, so the Qin family would definitely not forget him. However, a person like Brother Lu would definitely not ask for any reward. So he made a promise that was more important. "You're welcome." Sister Lu smiled faintly. After the others said goodbye to Sister Lu and Brother Lu, Sister Lu and Brother Lu saw them off again. When they walked out of the door, no one expected that there were so many bodyguards of the Qin family outside. The whole alley was filled with bodyguards in black, which shocked everyone again. Most people did not think much of it. Maybe they thought it was because the Qin family attached great importance to this matter. After all, the 3 children of the Qin family were here. They were worried that they would be hurt again, so they sent so many bodyguards to protect them. Among them were Lin Su, Xia Ding, and Chang Baji. Qin Ran already knew what had happened, so she was not surprised. Qin Sheng's intuition told him that something was wrong. It seemed that there had never been such a big group of people before. After they waved goodbye to Sister Lu and Brother Lu, the bodyguards of the Qin family quickly surrounded them and escorted them out of the alley. They got into the car and left. Several cars protected them in the middle. The motorcade did not go to Pudong, but to Shishan Golf Club. After the motorcade left the alley, Qin Ran said to Qin Sheng, who was beside her, "Something happened to the old man too." Qin Sheng's expression changed instantly. He was stunned subconsciously and could not say a word. He did not dare to continue asking, for he was afraid that the result would be unacceptable to him. In Beijing, in the Sihiyuan of the Qin family, Qin Chang'an had been safely escorted back. The front yard and backyard of the Qin family were full of bodyguards. The Qin family had not been so nervous for a long time. After all, so many things had happened tonight. At this moment, Qin Chang'an was drinking ginger soup. A woman who had never stepped into the Sihiyuan of the Qin family was taking care of him. The woman was in her early 40s, but she was charming. Her graceful, charming, and sexy temperament was wonderful, especially the cheongsam she was wearing, which showed her figure and temperament vividly. In the living room, besides this woman, Gong Sun, whose head was wrapped in bandages, was standing not far away. Nangong and Zhuang Zhou, who rushed back as soon as possible, were also there. Zhuang Zhou's face was gloomy. He did not expect so many things to happen. Nangong's eyes were full of anger and murderous intent. Everyone could feel her horrible aura. After drinking the ginger soup, Qin Chang'an finally said, "Luo Shui, I haven't heard you play the pipa for a long time. Play Ambush from 10 Sides for me." Ambush from 10 Sides. This murderous song seemed to be very suitable at this time. However, The woman named Luo Shui was somewhat dissatisfied. She stared at Qin Chang'an and finally stood up slowly and left. This was the first time she stepped into the Sihiyuan of the Qin family, which meant a lot to her. However, she did not feel happy. Maybe it was because Qin Chang'an was injured. After the woman stood up and left, Qin Chang'an finally looked at the people present. His legs and arms were also wrapped in bandages, but they were not very serious. However, it could be seen that the Qin family had paid a heavy price for what happened tonight. If it was only these, Qin Chang'an would not be angry at all. On the contrary, he would face it calmly. After all, he had experienced too many things. However, those people had dared to attack Qin Ran and Qin Sheng, which had challenged his bottom line. Therefore, Qin Sheng was very angry. Chapter 522. What should they do? A new month has begun. Everyone, please vote for the minimum monthly ticket. We will try our best to renew it this month. Ambush from all sides. Dark clouds loomed over the city. More than 20 years ago, those people besieged the Qin family, which made the Qin family lose too many things, especially Zhu Qinghuan's unexpected death, which was the eternal pain of the Qin family. However, at that time, Qin Chang'an did not have much ability to face such a predicament. That feeling of helplessness was still a lingering nightmare in his mind. More than 20 years later, everything seemed to be repeating. However, Qin Chang'an was no longer the Qin Chang'an of that year. He was fully capable of facing all of this. No matter whether he won or lost, at least he could go all out without any regrets. 20 years ago, he had lost his beloved woman. 20 years later, he did not want to lose his beloved children as well. Anyone who dared to lay a hand on them would touch his reverse scale. Then he would no longer need to consider so many things. In a life-and-death chase in the suburbs of the west of the city, Qin Chang'an and Gong Sun were both slightly injured. Many bodyguards of the Qin family risked their lives to protect them so that they could enter the city safely. Those people could only give up in the end. Otherwise, with such a big movement at the foot of the emperor, no one could protect them without Qin Chang'an's help. Of course, those people were not idiots. The whole plan was carefully designed. There were strict areas and time limits on where to start and where to end. Besides, there were spies in other places and so on. Although the ending was still optimistic, after all, Qin Chang'an was fine. The process was very thrilling. 2 Mercedes-Benzes were scrapped, and the other was under heavy repair. Among the 6 bodyguard drivers of the Qin family, 4 were seriously injured and 2 were slightly injured. Such a price was not small. The Qin family had not suffered such a heavy loss for many years. The most important thing was that Shanghai called Qin Chang'an and told him that Qin Sheng, Qin Ran, and Qin Jing were also attacked tonight. Qin Sheng was also injured, which was the biggest loss. As for Zhuangzhou and Nangong, one was going to Shanghai, while the other was going to Inner Mongolia. They had different tasks in different directions. Zhuangzhou's task was to protect Qin Sheng, Qin Ran, and Qin Jing to return to Beijing safely. Nangong's task was to invite a man who had retired for many years to come out of seclusion. It could be said that this man had made great contributions to Qin Chang'an's current achievements. Many people called him Qin Chang'an's think tank and military counselor. However, many people did not understand why he had retreated when he had achieved success and fame. Perhaps it was not until today that most people completely understood why Mr. Ding had left back then. Perhaps he had long guessed that Qin Chang'an would end up like this. Regarding Qin Chang'an's arrangement, Zhuangzhou had no objection. As long as the Qin family was in danger, Zhuangzhou would stand out without hesitation. Therefore, Zhuangzhou had no doubt that he would definitely bring them back to Beijing safely when he was asked to escort Qin Ran and Qin Jing back to Beijing. However, when Nangong heard that she wanted to go to Inner Mongolia, he rejected her directly and said, "Godfather, I don't want to go to Inner Mongolia. I want to avenge you." In the whole living room, Nangong's killing intent was the heaviest. He also understood Nangong's character. He stood up, walked over, patted Nangong's shoulder, and said, "Girl, As long as you can find Mr. Ding and invite him back to Beijing, this is more important than anything else. What happened tonight was just a test, and it was just the beginning. If those people really wanted to kill me, you would not be able to see me now. Godfather. Hearing this, Nangong became more anxious. She said in a hurry, Godfather, then I won't go to Inner Mongolia. I will stay in Beijing to protect you, okay? Nangong's tone was more like a plea. She begged her godfather to let her stay by his side, so that she would not worry about his safety, because she believed that as long as she was there, nothing would happen to her godfather. Secondly, Uncle Zhuang went to Shanghai, and she went to Inner Mongolia. In addition to those bodyguards, only Uncle Gongsun stayed by her godfather's side. Uncle Gongsun's strength was indeed unquestionable, but one more person meant one more guarantee. Qin Chang'an frowned slightly and said, Girl, even you don't listen to me, do you? Hearing her godfather's words, even though Nangong was very unwilling, she could only nod and agree at this time. Godfather, I will go to Inner Mongolia. Take care of yourself. After saying this, Nangong turned around and left the living room. She, who had been very strong since she was a child, was rarely seen with red eyes, because she had never seen her godfather like this, and she had never seen him so tired. After Nangong left, Qin Chang'an walked to Zhuangzhou again and said in a low voice, Old man, this time I have to trouble you again. Zhuangzhou said calmly, It's not troublesome at all. I can't help you with other things, but I have some skills. Qin Chang'an was very clear about his situation, so he specially told him, Don't kill people by accident unless you have to. Zhuangzhou nodded with a serious face. Of course, he knew why Qin Chang'an said this. Once someone died at this time, he was afraid that some people might have ulterior motives. At that time, Qin Chang'an might not be able to protect him. This was also a protection for him. After Zhuangzhou and Nangong both left, Qin Chang'an sat down on the sofa again and heaved a long sigh of relief. The woman named Luo Shui was already playing ambush from 10 sides with the pipa in her arms. She had a different charm when she was holding the pipa. Even at this age, she still had a kind of feeling that made people feel pity and love for her. No wonder she had become Qin Chang'an's confidant. Dang, 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 dang. As the music of ambush from 10 sides rang out, a murderous aura blew over. Anyone could feel the sense of crisis like an approaching storm. The atmosphere in the whole living room was so oppressive that everyone was a little breathless. Even Luo Shui, who was playing the pipa, felt suffocated. For Qin Chang'an, it was just setting up the camp, beating the drums, and naming the generals. It was still far from the real climax. He just did not know whether he would be the Han army returning to the camp in victory or Xiangyu, who would commit suicide in the Wu River. However, if he thought about it carefully, even if he became the overlord of Western Shu who failed at the last step, his life would be worth it. Just when ambush from 10 sides reached the climax, Zhao Anji hurried back. She had just received the news. After leaving the Zhao family, she went to see other people, so she got the news later. The moment Zhao Anji stepped into the living room, Luo Shui's pipa string also broke. With a loud bang, the sound was extremely ear-piercing, resounding through the whole living room. Qin Chang'an opened his eyes subconsciously. At that moment, Qin Chang'an looked a little scary, which did not seem to be a good sign. Luo Shui hurriedly explained, Maybe this pipa has not been used for a long time. I will buy some new strings tomorrow. Qin Chang'an did not say anything, because he had already seen his sister-in-law come in. Zhao Anji did not know Luo Shui, who was playing the pipa. She thought she was just a musician. She walked directly to Qin Chang'an and said, What time is it? You still have the mood to listen to music? Sister-in-law, what time do you think it is? But it is just the beginning. Don't make a fuss, Qin Chang'an said disapprovingly. He stood up and poured a cup of tea for Zhao Anji. Seeing Qin Chang'an like this, and hearing his words, Zhao Anji was a little angry. She said, What do you mean, just the beginning? Qin Chang'an, when have you ever been so embarrassed? You are Qin Chang'an. So what if he is Qin Chang'an? So what if he is Song Chang'an? They're just ordinary people. Do you think they can live a peaceful life without experiencing any troubles? Qin Chang'an said indifferently. Zhao Anji really could not argue with Qin Chang'an. She could only stare at him and then sit down to drink tea and sulk. When she got the news, she was really shocked. She did not expect that someone would dare to fight against Qin Chang'an. How bold and how powerful was his background. Fortunately, Qin Chang'an was fine. However, seeing Qin Chang'an like this, Zhao Anji was still a little worried. After all, Qin Chang'an was the pillar of the Qin family now. If he fell, the Qin family would really collapse. The woman called Luo Shui had never seen Zhao Anji before. At first, she thought that she was another confidant of Qin Chang'an. After hearing Qin Chang'an call her sister-in-law, she then knew this woman's identity. At this moment, she was a little embarrassed. She could not leave, nor could she stay. Her name was Min Luo Shui. She had known Qin Chang'an for 10 years. Until now, she had not married and had been waiting for Qin Chang'an. Qin Chang'an noticed Luo Shui's strange behavior. He said to Gongsun, "Gongsun, since I'm going to send Luo Shui back first." Gongsun took Min Luo Shui away politely. After hearing this name, Zhao Anji quietly looked at this woman. It turned out that she was Min Luo Shui, whom many people talked about. It seemed that she was just SOSO. Min Luo Shui happened to meet Zhao Anji's eyes. She nodded with a faint smile. Zhao Anji was indifferent. In her eyes, the women around Qin Chang'an all wanted to be the mistress of the Qin family. After all, if they could become the mistress of the Qin family, they would be able to rise from daughter-in-law to mother-in-law and become a phoenix. In the future, they would definitely get a lot of Qin Chang'an's property. If they gave birth to a son or a daughter, it would be even more awesome. Fortunately, Qin Chang'an did not do this. Otherwise, Zhao Anji would not treat Qin Chang'an like this. A stepmother was not as good as a biological mother. Without anyone to support Qin Sheng and Qin Ran, she had to prepare for a rainy day. After Min Luo Shui left, Zhao Anji looked at the bandage on Qin Chang'an's arm and asked, "Are you okay?" "I'm fine. It's just a small injury," Qin Chang'an said indifferently. Zhao Anji asked again, "Are you sure you're okay? Do you want to go to the hospital? Don't be so stubborn. If you fall down, there will be many people who will laugh at you." Qin Chang'an said happily, "As long as I'm not dead, I can laugh at you. I don't know who will laugh in the end." "Don't say such unlucky words," Zhao Anji said impatiently. Qin Chang'an looked at Zhao Anji's state and estimated that she probably did not know what had happened in Shanghai. Therefore, he decided to take the initiative to tell her, in case she would scold him to death when she found out later. Although this sister-in-law was usually polite when she was angry, she was not simple. Ordinary people could not stand it. Therefore, Qin Chang'an said softly, "There is something I want to tell you, but don't be anxious. Let me finish first." "What is it?" Zhao Anji said absent-mindedly. Qin Chang'an said slowly, "Tonight, not only did something happen to my side, but also to Sheng and Ran in Shanghai." As expected, before Qin Chang'an finished speaking, Zhao Anji suddenly stood up, as if her butt had been pricked by a needle. She lost her mind and screamed. She even cursed. "What?" "Qin Chang'an, what did you say?" Sheng and Ran were also in trouble. "What happened? How is Yaya? Is she hurt? Damn it. Who is targeting our Qin family? Who is it? Don't let me know. If I find out, I will definitely crush their bones and scatter their ashes. No, I have to go to Shanghai. I have to see Yaya. If something happens to Yaya, I don't want to live anymore." A woman who had been extremely elegant a second ago could fly into a rage and scold people the next second. It meant that this matter had challenged her bottom line. Zhao Anji's bottom line was Yaya, just like Qin Chang'an's bottom line was Qin Ran and Qin Sheng. At the end of the year, they almost did not have much ambition. Their children were everything to them. Qin Chang'an was extremely troubled. He had seen this sister-in-law like this before, but it was very early last time. He hurriedly pulled Zhao Anji, who was about to leave, and said earnestly, "Sister-in-law, I have told you everything. Can you listen to me first?" "I don't want to listen. I don't want to listen to anything. You can sit here and do nothing, but I can't. I have to go to Shanghai. Yaya is my lifeblood. I can't live without her. Zhao Anji did not want to listen to Qin Chang'an's explanation at all. She continued, "This time, I don't care about anyone. Qin Chang'an, you could be a coward and bear it, but I can't. The people of the Zhao family are not dead yet." Chapter 523. I won't go back. Qin Chang'an still remembered what had happened many years ago. Every time he thought of those things, he would sigh with emotion. Time waited for no man. Decades passed in the blink of an eye. She remembered that when sister-in-law had just married into the Qin family, no one could control her except for the old master. Not to mention the eldest brother, Qin Changxing. Even the old lady had to give in to her, not to mention the many direct, collateral, and distant relatives of the Qin family. Everyone was afraid of her, let alone Qin Chang'an. Later, he knew that sister-in-law was also like this in the Zhao family. She was not afraid of anything. Only old lady Zhao could control her. Qin Sheng happened to know something about old lady Zhao. It could be said that mother and daughter were exactly the same. Later, something happened to the Qin family, and sister-in-law went to Canada. When they met again, she was no longer the sister-in-law of that year. Maybe she had gradually calmed down after experiencing these things. It was not until the day that Qin Chang'an saw sister-in-law get angry again. Qin Chang'an really did not know how to comfort her. He was afraid that the more he tried to persuade her, the angrier she would get. If he really could not do it, he would have to call Boss Zhao or ask Yaya to tell him that she was safe. Qin Chang'an had to continue persuading her. "Don't worry, sister-in-law. Yaya and Ran Ran are fine. Only Shang'o was slightly injured. Besides, I have asked Zhuang Zhou to go to Shanghai overnight. You will definitely see Yaya tomorrow." At this time, Zhao Anji had already walked to the door of the living room. It was unknown whether she had calmed down after hearing Qin Chang'an's words or thought of something else. Anyway, she stopped. Qin Chang'an let out a long sigh of relief. Zhao Anji stared at Qin Chang'an and asked very seriously, "Do you know who did it tonight?" Qin Chang'an's heart tightened. Of course, he knew what sister-in-law wanted to do. It was estimated that she was going to take revenge on the enemy. Qin Chang'an shook his head and said, "If I knew, I would not be sitting here. But soon you will know. If you don't want others to know, don't do it. It must be those people." "What are you going to do?" Zhao Anji asked again. Qin Chang'an squinted and replied, "Honestly, sister-in-law, when has the Qin family ever admitted defeat? When the old master was still alive, a debt of blood must be paid in blood. Now, when I, Qin Chang'an, am in charge, a debt of blood must be paid in blood." "Okay, I'll remember what you said. If you, Qin Chang'an, can't do it, then let me, Zhao Anji, do it. Even if the Qin family has no men, there are still women," Zhao Anji said firmly. What she said was really domineering and mighty. At this point, Zhao Anji finally stopped making trouble and let Qin Chang'an take charge of the situation. She was no longer the Zhao Anji of the past. Of course, she would not act recklessly, not to mention at this sensitive time. In Shanghai, the Qin family's motorcade escorted Qin Ran, Qin Sheng, and Qin Jing to Xishan. Qin Chang'an had a villa there. Every time he came to Shanghai, he would find time to stay there for a few days. He would meet his old friends, play golf, and drink red wine. Lin Su and Xia Ding also went to Xishan. Of course, Lin Su had to accompany Qin Sheng. Xia Ding was shocked by the scene tonight. It seemed that he had never experienced such a thing. He thought that he had experienced all the things that should be experienced at the age of 30. Now he realized that he was too young. If it had been him, he would have been dead by now. Fortunately, Qin Sheng, Chang Baji, and Brother Lu were here. However, Xiaoding was more or less scared. He did not dare to go back at night and had to go with them. Fortunately, Qin Sheng and the others did not say anything. Qin Ran and Qin Sheng sat in the same car. Because there was something that they wanted to talk about, and it was not convenient for others to know, Chang Baji drove in person. Qin Jing, Lin Su, and Xia Ding were in the car behind. As soon as the motorcade left the alley, Qin Jing received a call from Zhao Anji. Zhao Anji did not want Yaya to be too nervous, so she asked casually, "Yaya, are you okay?" Qin Jing did not know how her mother knew about this. Maybe it was her brother and sister who told them. She said softly, "Mom, I'm fine. Sister is also fine, but brother is injured. It's good that you're fine. Don't be afraid. Brother will be fine too. He will be fine when you go back to Beijing." Zhao Anji comforted her carefully. She hated the person behind the scenes tonight even more. Qin Jing nodded heavily and said, "Mom, with brother and sister here, I'm not afraid. It's okay. I've grown up." "Well, Yaya's grown up. Then you should rest early. I won't say anything more to you," Zhao Anji said with red eyes. She did not dare to say anything more. She was afraid that she could not help crying. Otherwise, Yaya would be worried about her. In the car in front, Qin Ran planned to tell Qin Sheng about what happened in Beijing after they left the city. She seemed to sigh and said, "What happened tonight was not simple. Those people came prepared." "Sister, what do you want to say? Is there something that I don't know?" Qin Sheng had guessed that his sister was hiding something from him. He had been waiting for her to say it. Qin Ran looked at the street lights flying by outside the window. She said without turning her head, "I didn't want to tell you at first. I was afraid that you would be too stressed if you knew. But I thought that you were almost 30. You should bear these things. Moreover, this path was originally chosen by you." Qin Sheng also said very seriously, "Sister, since we met in Tsingtao, I know that you care about me very much. You always think about me. You are afraid that I will suffer a little bit, be wronged, or be bullied and so on. But sister, I'm a man, and I've experienced many things. I know that a man should always be at the forefront at all times. That's a real man. He must have the ability to protect the people he wants to protect and not always be protected by others. Even if he doesn't have the ability, he must do his best. This is the responsibility that a man must bear and bear." Qin Sheng said these words out of his feelings. He did not want his sister to be at the forefront every time something happened. He also did not want his sister to bear these pressures. In the past, when he was not back, he could ignore it. But now that he was back, he had to bear these things. His sister should have a rest and enjoy the life that a woman should have. Shopping, traveling, eating delicious food, that was life. Qin Ran sighed with emotion. She was very touched and gratified. She looked at Qin Sheng affectionately. She knew why Qin Sheng said these words. She felt sorry for Qin Sheng, and Qin Sheng also felt sorry for her. After all, they were sister and brother. Qin Ran said sincerely, "Okay, I will not hide anything from you in the future. I will tell you whatever you want to know," Qin Ran said sincerely. Qin Sheng said conveniently, "Sister, what else did you not tell me tonight?" As a result, Qin Ran said that something had happened to the old man too. Qin Sheng could not come back to his senses for a long time. No wonder his sister would hide it from him. This matter was really beyond his imagination. He did not expect that there would be people who dared to fight against the old man. What he could understand was that at the level of the old man, many things could not be solved by fighting. Instead, they could be solved by tactics at a higher level. As a result, Qin Sheng was very shocked. After a long time, Qin Sheng finally came back to his senses. He asked in a somewhat uneasy voice, "The old man, is the old man okay?" Qin Ran subconsciously held Qin Sheng's hand tightly and said, "Don't worry, the old man is fine. The bodyguards have already escorted him back to the Sihiyuan. He was just slightly injured." Qin Sheng let out a long sigh of relief and said, "That's good." Qin Ran continued to say, "Uncle Zhuang is on his way to Shanghai. He will escort you back to Beijing tomorrow. You will be safer in Beijing." She did not believe that those people would dare to fight against them. Qin Sheng said subconsciously, "Sister, are you not going back?" Qin Ran explained casually, "The things in Shanghai are not over yet. I will go back after a while. You and Yaya go back first." Qin Sheng said very seriously, "Sister, no. It is too dangerous for you to stay in Shanghai alone. I am worried. Either you go back to Beijing with us, or I will stay with you in Shanghai." Of course, Qin Sheng was worried. At this time, he would not let his sister stay in Shanghai alone. What if something really happened? Qin Ran did not know whether to laugh or cry. She said, I know you're worried about me, but I have also thought about it carefully. I will not go out alone during this time. Brother Xia and the others will protect me. If there is no other way, I will live with small aunt or grandmother. I don't believe that anyone would dare to fight there. Qin Sheng looked very serious. It seemed that he would not agree to whatever Qin Ran said. Qin Ran had to continue to say, Qin Sheng, don't be emotional at this time. At this time, you must go back to Beijing. The old man needs your help. Have you forgotten what you just said? Qin Sheng let out a long sigh. Of course, he understood what his sister said. He could only nod and say, Okay, no matter what happens, you can call me at any time. Don't worry, I will contact you at any time, Qin Ran said with a smile. Finally, the atmosphere was eased. Soon, they arrived at Shishan Golf Resort. The housekeeper had already tidied up the room. After so many things had happened, everyone was a little tired. After saying goodbye to each other, they went to bed. Qin Ran was worried that Qin Jing would be scared, so she slept with her. Lin Su, of course, accompanied Qin Sheng. Qin Sheng was injured and needed to be taken care of, so Xia Ding had to stay in the empty room alone. Who was the mastermind behind the things that happened tonight? Everyone in the Qin family could not figure out now, but the truth would come to light eventually. In a mansion in Haidian district, Beijing, it was late at night. An old man in his 60s was drinking tea and admiring the moon on the balcony. When the phone rang, the old man asked everyone to leave and answered the phone alone. The call was from Sonia, an ally who was not really an ally. It could only be said that they were doing what they needed for common interests. The old man in his 60s frowned and said, holding an expensive opium pipe, Everything is over. A middle-aged man on the other side of the phone replied, Yes. But the result may disappoint you. Both sides failed at the same time. The Qin family is really unpredictable. The old man was not surprised at the result. If Qin Chang'an died like this, it would be too disappointing. The Qin family is not a declining noble family. If you had succeeded so easily, we wouldn't have needed to plot for so long. The old man in his 60s sneered and said, This time is enough. Just take it as a test. But you have to deal with the following things well. Otherwise, we will not be able to bear the consequences. Also, don't act rashly in the short term. Listen to our instructions. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.